Episode 50.
50.
50, Christopher.
Is it really 50?
It is. This one.
I thought you said it was 52.
Well, I mean, that would be the 1 year episode. This is just 50.
Ooh. I think we should celebrate.
And how do we do that?
Celebrate. I don't know that. What is the song? Remind me of the song of the celebration song. Party up.
Yeah. It's a celebration. Yeah, that's the one.
With cake.
It's a
That's
celebration.
the only way you can party.
That's what you told me.
Yeah.
Because I specifically sent you a text message. I was like, hey, episode 52, we got to do something big. And you're like, with a cake?
Yeah.
I was like,
no, you said we should do something special. And I said, yeah, like a cake.
Like a cake.
Like we'll get a cake.
Because apparently that's the only thing
special.
special.
We'll get a sheet cake from Morris Bakery. That's what's going to happen for 52. Big 52. The 1 year anniversary.
1 year anniversary coming up. So our actual 1 year anniversary, I looked it up today. The first episode that came out was November 4th.
Okay.
Of 2018.
I think 50 is a bigger deal because it's a round number.
Right.
Like it's a milestone.
Isn't that like a milestone in life when they give you like all black balloons and they're like,
over the hill,
dead.
Right? That's the over the hill.
Like this
party.
is when you die.
This is when you die.
Everything you know is dead. That's really sad.
50 episodes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm excited.
Every
I'm
time
proud.
I sit back and I reflect and I think like, wow, we're doing something. You know?
It's all because of you, our listening audience.
It is. It's only because of you, our listening audience. Because if we had literally nobody listening to this ever, we probably would have ended it by now.
You think? Know about that. I don't
like
think
no
so.
one.
Like 0?
Like 2 or 3? Would you still be doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd do it.
You think? I don't think so. I think you would be very discouraged.
I would be discouraged, but I'd be trying to figure out a way to get more. But I'd still keep doing it.
Okay. I think I believe that.
So if you're excited about our 50th episode.
I am.
And you want us to do 50 more.
Oh, I do.
There's this little thing called Patreon.
Can I subscribe to it?
Patreon.com/snarfcomics. Check it out.
Can I become a patron?
You can become a patron of the arts.
What would it cost me, Chris?
It can cost you as little as $1 a month, or you can pay a little more. You can pay $5 and get extra bonus podcasts. You can pay $10 and get T-shirts and bonus podcasts. You can pay $25 a month, and you can get a monthly subscription box.
Yeah.
That we curate just for you.
What would be in that?
Oh, all kinds of goodies. We could have comics. We could have Funko Pops. We could have letter openers.
I like those.
Maybe a
swords.
switchblade.
Oh, switchblades or swords.
Anything that captures our fancy.
Yeah.
Maybe a flint. Like one of those flint, like camping flints.
They're very handy.
Yeah. Well, I don't want people to die.
I mean, if you're stranded in Alaska.
Yeah, exactly. So, I would highly recommend checking out that and subscribing to our Patreon, patreon.com/snarfcomics. If you're listening right now, just go on there. Take 2 seconds to go on there right now, set up an account, and just do like the $5 level.
Right. It takes no time.
$5 a month, Jerry. What do you waste $5 on?
Well, I wasted $12 at the gas station this morning for no reason.
Yeah. That's like one Monster Energy a month.
I gave $5. Actually, today got a good deal. Guy at work had a deep fryer, one of them big deep fryers.
Like a turkey fryer?
Yeah, one of those. An outdoor one, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So he gave me the big pot plus a smaller pot plus a screen thing, a whole jug of oil, and the fryer thing for $5. Give him $5. He's like, yeah, I got it at a garage sale. Works perfect. He's like, I don't want it anymore.
Oh, for $5.
You could get a deep fryer or more stuff.
From
you Snarf Talk.
All kinds of extra content. We had one out last week. I think it was out. That was, what was that episode?
The Patreon exclusive one. What was that? What did we talk about? We did our superhero, like special superhero powers.
Oh yeah,
that's
what we talked about. If we could have a superpower, what would it be? It was a great episode. Honestly, it was a really fun episode.
The dude was on it.
We're gonna do more. We're gonna do probably a couple of them a month. bonus podcasts. Jerry just unearthed our very first podcast that was unreleased. It's called Snarf Talk Origins.
Yeah. So for a while it was in limbo.
Yeah,
I couldn't find the SD card.
Lost it.
And then I found it just on a whim. I don't know how. Like, I really don't know how it happened. I was in my office scrounging around through things, and I saw this 16 gigabyte SD card, and you told me, you're like, I think it was 16 gigs.
Yeah.
So I found a 16
Because I'm a 16 gig man.
You are.
Everything I buy in 16 gig.
Really? Mine's all 32.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 16's better than 32.
I don't know. Not if you're trying to store more data.
See, here's the deal. You're buying the cheap SD cards. That's why you get all the big data, the flashy data, but it's not quality data.
Same exact company you bought yours from.
But there's different grades of SD card. I don't know if you even know that.
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that.
There is.
Really?
And, yeah, the read and write speed is faster on the higher quality
All
ones.
mine is the micro SD that are way better.
Well, they're even worse. So
They're not. It's all you can get now.
I'm a 16 gig man.
Okay. Well, that 16 gig I found, popped her in the old Apple Think machine, and it gave me the files. And boy, are they a doozy.
They are
A doozy.
It's going to be interesting.
It's
There are periods that are deep. There are periods that are
There's very deep periods.
crazy. There's periods that are
In a truck.
intoxicated. There's periods that are in vehicles. We're going to like break it up over the next probably 6 months and release like a little bit because it's long, right?
Yeah, there are multiple files that are relatively short, but then there's one file that's like 2.5 hours long, and Pagoda's involved. You'll hear him get wrecked.
Yeah.
I mean, he's something else. What I will say is, this is the first time we ever recorded something. So
it's not. It's the second time.
It is the second time, but it's the first time that we successfully recorded something after trying like 3 times.
Right.
And I don't know. It's an experience to listen to.
Yeah, and the audio's not great because we were using a different kind of microphone, like a whole room microphone.
Yeah,
so
but it adds to the experience.
It does. It's going to be super cool. So if you want to get access to that, plus our other, our Patreon podcasts are going to be like fun.
Oh yeah, they're going to be.
Not that our regular podcast isn't fun, but I just mean like we had that. They're
No
going to be a little.
holds
Yeah, they're
bar.
going to be a little looser, a little loosey goosey.
Yeah, they're going to be like when the Undertaker threw Mankind off the top of the cage in Hell in the Cell. He fell 16 feet into the announcer's
That's right.
table.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah, it'd be nuts.
So take the time right now. Stop what you're doing. Stop. If you're driving in the middle of the interstate, slam on your brakes. Stop.
Right.
Immediately. And get on your phone.
in the left lane.
Set up an account with patreon.com with your email address, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Put your old Tarjeta de Credito on there. That's credit card in Espanol.
It is?
Yeah.
What's debit card?
Tarjeta de Debito.
Okay. Yeah, just say it backwards. That all works.
No, that's Tarjeta. Tarjeta
Is asphalt. No?
is card.
Oh, okay.
Day of.
Today. No?
Day is of.
Okay.
Credito is credit. So Tarjeta de Credito
I
is
understand.
credit card. Tarjeta de Debito
Is made up.
is debit card.
is definitely
Or
made
it's
up.
a little person named Debbie.
Yeah.
Anyway. Debito. Yo, Debito. Get over here.
Come
Debito.
here, little Debito. That's a little.
I don't know what my accent was. Get over here, Debito.
And
I don't know.
what do you need? I am Debito.
I can't do it. So sign up right now. Patreon.com/snarfcomics. Pledge us $1 or $5 a month, or $10 a month, whatever. Just help us make this show and make more cool stuff for you.
Right.
Another thing we're going to start doing.
We are?
iTrees, no.
That is not our company.
iTunes or the Apple Podcast app, as is aptly named, pun intended.
Happily.
You can leave a review
You can.
for this show. And if you do leave us a 5-star review,
Please.
and then you send that review, copy and paste it, and email it to us at info@snarfcomics.com.
Yep.
We will read your review out loud on the show, give you a shout out, and we will send you a sticker. Make sure to include your address.
Yes. Just like
5-star review equals sticker.
Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah, Jerry O'Connell, the actor of note.
Yeah, of note.
left
Everyone knows him.
a review on our podcast on Apple Podcast app. If Jerry O'Connell can take it a step out of his busy actor life to leave us a review, guess what? You can.
You can too.
While you're signing up for our Patreon, just jump on over there and leave us a review.
Can I say real quick what I remember Jerry O'Connell from?
What's that?
It's a very small time in my life, really quick time when MTV had MTV Spring Break.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chris Hardwick was on there.
Oh. He was, because he did the show.
Singled Out.
Singled Out. That's
and
right.
Shipmates. He did both.
Yeah, he did. That was a very short show.
Yeah.
Shipmates. But during the spring break, I think it was in spring break Cancun, I think, he came out on stage, you know, when they used to videotape people singing on stage and there was like big crowds. And I was like, oh, I want to be there so bad. And I was like 9. No, why I needed to be there.
I never had any interest in being at MTV Spring
Really?
Break. No.
I was obsessed with it. I thought it was so cool. Jerry O'Connell came out and sang Hungry Like the Wolf.
Oh, I freaking love that song.
And that's the first time I really had heard it.
I'm hungry.
Duran.
Go wolf.
Yeah. He sang it on stage. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And every time I've ever seen Jerry O'Connell since then, it's the only thing I think about.
In person, yeah.
Yeah, in person. Because he's a 5-star reviewer of the show. Of course we know him.
Yeah.
That'd be silly not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always say, hey, remember when you sang Duran Duran, Hungry Like the Wolf on MTV Spring Break? He's like, of course I do, Jerry. I was like, yeah, Jerry.
High five.
And we high five each other. We're like, we're both Jerrys.
You want to be best friends?
Yeah, we love each other.
Yeah.
Or like each other a lot. It's cool.
So leave us a review on iTunes now. Get a sticker, but you got to email us with the review so we can. I don't want. I need to know who you are.
I don't even know how to check that.
Yeah, I don't either. And patreon.com/snarfcomics. That's done. Commercial time's over.
Yeah. That's it.
This big topic that we're going to talk about this week, and I think maybe, you know what? I think maybe we're going to get back to the 2-hour format. I think the experiment is over.
Yeah, I think Snarf Talk 50 is getting back to 2 hours for you guys. And
now, if you're listening to this and it turns out it's a 1-hour podcast, we just lied. But that's not our intention at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, at this point, I don't think that's the intention. You never know. We change it on the fly because it's our show.
Because we're hungry, like wolves.
And I think episode 50 is going to go back to the 2-hour episodes because we've widely heard.
Yeah, nobody likes 1-hour episodes.
Nobody likes the 1-hour episodes.
Everybody complained about 2-hour episodes, but they don't like 1-hour episodes. That's what I was going to say.
We widely heard nobody liked the 2-hour episodes, but I've said it before, and I think the audience was groomed to the 2-hour episode and was used to it, became enveloped in this warm blanket of the 2-hour episode.
Yeah.
Felt loved by it, like better than their father could love them.
Right.
They felt loved by this show. And then
if they even have fathers.
Right. And then their dad leaves.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have half a father now.
Yeah. When they were in
utero.
Yeah. Said he was going to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just never came back. That bastard.
Right. I mean, what a dick.
That rat bastard. Of course, you'll find out later in life that he didn't even know you.
He didn't even know who you were.
No.
And now you're thinking like, well, I'm left with this 1-hour episode that doesn't even love me.
Right.
Well, guess what? When he turned 50, he came back in your life.
He came back. He didn't even know that she was pregnant.
He loves you now.
And he's very sorry your mom died.
Right. Because it's...
But he's here to step up.
Yes. I'm going to step up and I'm going to be your dad. By the time you're 30 years old,
I'm going to be there for you.
I want you to call me daddy. I want you to call me daddy.
I mean, I'm not going to pay for your college
or
anything.
Any financial burden is yours.
There'll be no financial help here.
It won't be me.
You weren't there to provide me free labor.
But if you have become successful and are a good person, and will elevate my status,
and have potentially have an apartment above your attic,
right, right. If you have any of these things,
then we're back in your life.
I will be your dad.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
I will be that warm blanket again. So Just feel like that's what this episode could be.
I mean, basically that all sums up the 2-hour episode perfectly.
Yeah, I think it does. So what's this 2-hour episode got?
The
Chris?
big topic we're talking about right now this week is, wait for it, aliens.
Aliens. Are they even real?
That's what we're going to discuss. Do they exist?
Well, we're going
to talk about UFOs. We're going to talk about UFO sightings. We're going to talk about aliens. We're going to talk about whether or not they exist. We're going to talk about
Tic
what we
Tacs.
think. We're going to talk about Tic Tacs.
Navy pilots.
Maybe toes.
Bob Lazar.
Yeah. We're going to talk about all that stuff. But first, we got a couple news.
We do have a couple news items.
So, hey, stick around for this alien discussion.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get
it
out of
interests
this
me.
world.
So, oh my God. Oh, I see what you did there. But it turns out they're on in this world. I think. Maybe.
We'll get there.
Do I think that?
We got some news to discuss first. And then, of course, we're going to do, there's some new stuff we've been watching.
We have been watching some things. But we did go, do you want to talk about where we went?
Oh, yeah. We did a Snarf Talk road trip.
We did.
This week, actually.
A couple very short videos of it. We never videoed after the beginning.
Oh, yeah, we forgot. I should send those videos to you so you can put them on the YouTubes or something.
I can do that. So we went up to Chicago, and we saw this guy named Kevin Smith. We talk about him in basically every episode we've ever recorded.
Yeah, and either next week or last week, there is an episode all about Kevin Smith.
Right. Movie Magic. We don't know when that comes out. So we have a whole episode about Kevin Smith. This time we went and saw him and Jason Mewes, who is Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. Kevin Smith is obviously Silent Bob, and they had a new movie come out called Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. And they had the Reboot Roadshow.
If you remember Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, the movie from 2001.
Yeah.
I believe this is a, it's not really a reboot as much as it is a making fun of reboots. And
right.
It's really more of a sequel, actually. It's kind of a running gag in the movie because they're discussing the difference between a sequel and a reboot. They
do. And they like break is that the fourth wall or third wall?
Oh, yeah, the fourth wall.
Fourth wall, where they look at the camera and like actually act with the audience, like
which they did in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back too.
Yeah, they did, and they do that here just to make fun of like reboots, remakes, whatever. So the experience right off the bat. So me, you, and Dude go up there.
Alex was supposed to go, but he bailed.
Well, he bailed on us, so he'll never be back on. I don't even know who he is. Anyway. Dude came with us, and so we get up there, and originally we thought like we'll park, get something to eat, no big deal. Show starts at 7. We got there at like 4:55. Got plenty of time. Well, turns out there's line. There's already a line there,
and we already had tickets, but they were general admission, so
it was
no assigned seating.
So you just got whatever seats you got, when you went in there, and we saw these lines, and we're like, crap. Now, like we're forced to stand in this line now because we wanted to sit together, obviously, and we wanted a decent seat. So we starved to almost death.
Yeah, near death. It was a near death experience. It was also a beautiful autumn day.
Perfect.
In Chicago
to stand outside.
In a line outside.
Yeah.
And it was really nice out.
So we stand in line for like an hour, get inside, got our seats, really good seats right up front. The really cool part about we were at the Music Box Theater in Chicago.
It was in like Wrigleyville.
Yeah, just north of there, a few blocks, something like that. And it's an old school theater where they only have, I think, two screens, and they have an organist playing in the beginning instead of running any like ads or any other
pianist
stuff.
Playing with his organ.
Right. Yeah, an organist playing with his pianist.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I mean, an organist playing with his organ.
Yes. Yeah. And he does a great job in the beginning.
For about
That's really
half
cool.
an hour, he plays organ music, and it's actually really good.
Yeah, it's really neat to see.
I mean, after about 15 minutes, you're like, okay,
sounds like an organ.
That's enough organ.
Yeah, but I just think it's neat. It's like nostalgic, bringing back the old school theater vibe. Really good seats, like I said. And then literally the director of the movie and star comes walking out right in front of you on this small stage.
Well, I mean, it wasn't
talking about a show.
We knew they were coming.
I understand we knew. I just really think it's amazing to see a movie with the director and star of the show there presenting it to you.
Yeah.
You don't get to see that much. I mean, who else have you seen do that besides Kevin Smith?
Right. No, I mean, that's
what I mean?
That the idea with this movie is it is getting released to theaters, and every city that they go to do the premiere,
it becomes released.
They release it in that city at that time, and then it also, like 2 weeks prior to this, they had a nationwide Fathom event screening. So that would be like maybe there was 2 screenings on a Tuesday that was all over. But it is a wide release, and it is in release in Chicago and about 6 or 7 theaters. They listed them. The biggest one is the one in Naperville, or the closest one to us. But yeah, I mean, he's the only one. I've been to 2 of his other movies that they have toured live.
Yeah,
and that's how they chose to release this movie. And it's an indie movie. It really is. It's a crowd-funded indie movie. Essentially, it's Legion M, which is it's a fan-owned production company.
Yep.
And
Saban Films.
Yep.
Or Saban Films
of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yes.
Was the distributor of it, and so they knew this wasn't going to be a blockbuster. That's not that type of a movie. So they spent $10 million budget, which is pretty low.
Very.
And they were touring it across the country and doing live Q&A afterwards. And it's great. I mean, honestly, it's a really fun, interactive way to go see an artist you really like, but also see the movie, which is great.
Yeah,
and then see all the other people that are there that like the same stuff that you like. It's great. It's a great idea. And I don't know how much the money they make off of it or anything like that. We were figuring there had to be $100,000 in that theater alone.
Oh yeah, easy. And I just think it's amazing that you see a guy that passionate about what he's putting out.
Right.
And it's genuine. I mean, it's genuine across the board. And the reason I truly believe that is because we listen to basically all of his podcasts, all of his YouTube stuff. We've seen him live, and he says the same thing over and over again about these, about that movie. Like, it's his heart and soul. He had a really big, like, emotional, break with this heart attack, which is also widely known when you have any sort of heart problem or heart surgery. You have like an emotional change in you. You really have an emotional change. My grandpa had heart surgery and became super emotional after his heart surgery, his bypass. And it does. Like, it's proven by science that if you have anything happen to your heart, an emotional change will happen to you, good or bad, But a lot of people get much more emotional after something like that happens, and he has. He was always emotional about TV stuff, but I feel like he's getting more emotional about life.
Right.
And he put this movie out, and you can tell it in the movie. He put it out as something that was the last of its kind, a last View Askew movie.
Yeah,
is what it looks like.
So View Askew, meaning that's their production company, meaning it's an interconnected universe with Clerks, Chasing Amy, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. They're all set in Mallrats. They're all set, same characters, same universe. Dogma is one of them.
Yeah.
The stories don't always intersect. I mean, the stories always intersect.
Is Jersey Girl part of that?
I don't think so, but I'd have to rewatch it.
Referenced in the movie.
Okay. Yeah, then maybe.
Yeah. It was referenced. I don't know if it's part of it, but it was referenced by Ben Affleck in his scene.
Well, anyway, yeah. So you could tell, he thought it was going to be the last one. He famously wanted to do Clerks 3, couldn't make it happen. So he thought this was his last chance at closing up the universe. And it turns out, great thing. I mean, he's going to make Clerks 3 now. So
he is.
That's amazing.
They made amends with Jeffrey Anderson.
I thought one of the coolest things is he came out, introduced the movie. They go to play the movie, and he walks back and he sits right in the middle of the theater with the fans. And watches the entire movie.
Yeah. How would you like to be that guy or girl sitting on either side of him, in the movie theater and watching his film with him,
Right.
that would have blown my mind if he would have been by us. What would you have done?
I don't know. Been crazy.
You know, like, would you? I don't even know if you'd pay attention to the show. I think I'd just stare at him out of the corner of my eye the entire time. Like, maybe try to touch his leg. I don't know.
It's funny, though. I mean, the crowd there was electric, man. There were some big fans. I mean, it was like
really was.
It was like a hippie concert outside. I mean, it was.
Oh yeah! As soon as we walked past the lines, I was like, "Holy smokes!" Like literally up in smoke.
But anyway, so they played the movie, and it was really, really, really fun. It's a really fun movie. Fun. If you're a fan, and if you would have to be, you would have to be a fan, at least casually.
You'd have to know some of his movies in order to get quite a few of the jokes.
Yeah. I'll say this.
You would think it's funny.
Yeah, it's very funny. There's lots of jokes. It's great. But you got to be a fan of Kevin Smith and his movies to watch this movie. Not only are you going to have no idea what's going on, pretty much.
Right.
It's not. We both said this afterwards, and I thought it was interesting. It didn't feel like a traditional movie in the sense of like it was shot like a movie or had the plot like a movie or the lighting was like a movie. The sound design was kind of odd. It felt almost like an hour and a half long YouTube video.
It was. It was like a.
It was like the plot was just like side note to the gags and the jokes and the nostalgia.
Yes. So it was all nostalgia driven. The entire movie was nostalgia driven. It was like I don't want to say like a retrospective or anything like that, but kind of. I mean, It was like, look back at what I've done, and it's going to be through the story of this movie of what I've done. All these people are going to come back, which is great to see. Partial storylines are going to come back, and then he said it from the beginning. Like, this is almost the identical movie to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
That's the gag. I mean, that's why it's funny.
And it is. That's what it is. What I was most impressed about, honestly, was Kevin Smith's daughter.
Yeah,
Harley.
For God's sakes, he casts his daughter in the lead role of the movie.
Right.
Basically. And
it is funny because he had said in an interview or on a podcast, one of the two, whatever I've listened to, that a lot of people have told him that Harvey looks like
Harley.
I said Harvey because I have a news article about Harvey Weinstein in front of me. That's a bad mix-up. Harley looks a lot like Jay. Like, she resembles Jay a lot just in normal day life. That's a lot. I don't know. I don't really see it, but I think it's just because she's blonde, to be honest. But a lot of people have told him that. So that's why he put that in the movie, is that, like, I'm going to put Harley as his daughter because I've been, like, teased about it, or people have brought it up for a long time. And I not liked her acting.
No, and I rolled my eyes at it in the first place because I'm like, come on. Like,
he had a movie.
Are you just making stuff now to be vehicles to, like, push your daughter out there?
Yeah.
But honestly, like, she did a really good job.
She was good.
She was good, and she did a good job. And
for the role that she had.
I mean, she is not perfect. I mean, she's a very, there would be a million better actors you probably could have chosen.
Absolutely.
But she's very young. A serviceable, fine, good enough job.
Yeah.
It was a little clunky at times, but she was fine.
But for the role she had and what we've seen of her before,
this was
you can tell she's much better than what she was before.
So that, like, was a red flag to me, but it ended up being fine. And actually later on in the movie, she has some pretty good jokes that kind of work.
And what I think, for me personally, like, if you came to it and have never seen her before, you're gonna say, like,
you're gonna notice right away.
It's not the best performance. But I was coming into it thinking, she's going to be dog shit.
Right.
Like, I don't like her acting. I don't even basically like how she talks normally and as a human being.
Yeah, I cannot stand.
It's just, she's very LA, you know? And I don't know. But so I came in with very low expectations, and it was
I very
better.
much do not like her Instagram.
It was
or
better
Twitter.
than that. Yeah, I don't either.
It's
And we follow it too.
Yeah.
That's your fault.
But anyway, that was fine. And then like there were some other moments too, because from then to now, I mean, Kevin Smith has gone mainstream Hollywood, like ultra liberal.
Yeah,
And
has.
I'm like, okay, how's this going to work itself in there? And so they have some like interesting casting choices that right away you're just rolling your eyes like, oh, okay.
So there's a lot of like diversity choices.
Yeah, but they do
On
a really
purpose.
good job because they make that one of the jokes of the movie,
Which is
which
hilarious.
surprised me and was funny. So
Yeah.
it was really good. And like I said, the jokes in this, at least when you're watching it in a theater with 1,200 fans,
Right. It's
I mean,
so
you
fun.
couldn't hear half the movie because people were cheering and laughing. So I'd
The
be
guy
interested
sitting next to me was literally choking himself to death laughing so hard at things that, I mean, weren't even funny. He
Right.
just was. He was so in love with the movie and with Kevin Smith. You could tell.
Right.
Because I had a seat in between him and I. One seat was empty somehow. I don't know how. But he was like leaning over, coughing, because he was laughing so hard at everything. I was like, "Holy smokes, dude! Like, you are in love with this stuff."
I'm just really glad because I'm like obsessed Kevin Smith fan.
Yeah.
And I always think I'm like the fans are dwindling away, and I it's sad because I'm the last one, and like he's not going to do anything else
It's
anymore.
not so.
It's not the case, man.
'Cause
And guess what? And we were there. Dude said, "Oh man, it's just weird to see like everybody in this theater is like our age or older." And I started looking around. I'm like,
No
not
way.
really. Like everybody in this theater is in their 20s.
Yeah, no way.
Not everybody, but I would say there was just as many or more people that were in their 20s.
I have to say, there was so many times in the movie that I looked over at you. I looked over because they had said something that I thought was like funny. There was no way you were moving your head. You were like locked in the whole time. I'd look over.
I didn't
like
notice that.
a couple times. Well, more than a couple, quite a few times. I'd look over at you, and you were like locked in, like at it. And so it's just fun to see like people, and everybody was like that.
Yeah.
And it's just fun to see people that are that in love with a certain like type of movie and person. I understand that they're goofy and have really like off-color jokes. I get it.
This isn't
but
Dogma, Chasing Amy, Clerks 2, Clerks, or
Shawshank
Mallrats,
Redemption,
or any of that stuff.
Gladiator.
It's actually, I would say, funnier than Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
I think so.
But not as well made of a movie as Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
It's
It's
I wouldn't
weird
say
how it's shot and how
but
it looks.
I wouldn't say it's lesser than. I wouldn't say it's not as good as Jay and Silent
just
Bob.
doesn't
Like in
feel as
shooting.
much like a movie as that.
It's just different.
Very different.
I feel like it makes you more like immersed into the show.
Maybe
To me, that's how I felt. Like I felt
You
like
do
we were
feel very
more
immersed into it.
like
Because-
involved with it.
because it didn't feel like a movie. It
No.
felt like a series of events that were just happening in front of you.
Exactly.
Isn't
that
interesting.
good?
I don't know. I don't know if it's good or not. But anyway, it doesn't matter because there's enough gags and jokes and nostalgia for a year in this movie. So
Right.
that makes me happy, and it was very enjoyable. And I think there's honestly, if you're not like a huge fan, but you're a casual fan, there's enough jokes that it's funnier than any comedy movie that I've seen in a long time.
In a long time.
Honestly, even if you're not a fan, it's still as funny as any comedy movie I've seen in a long time. Which I was worried about. I'm like, I don't know if he's still got the chops to do
I know. I didn't
this
think
type
so.
of a comedy.
I've been very reserved on this movie for a long time because I've told you before, because he kept saying like it's the same thing as Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. He kept saying that, and then he kept saying like I'm bringing back all the same characters or all the same actors that I've had before. I was like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd like that. I was nervous about it. Like I had said, I'm going to go see it, but I'm nervous about what he's going to make because I think it's going to be just like thrown together because he wants everybody to come back. Everyone was in it, but it's not what I thought. It's much better than what I thought. He put together a movie pretty well.
Yeah, and
it was super fun.
It's certainly the last half is much better than the first half, I thought.
Yeah,
I thought it really picks up about halfway. And honestly, he really, like, this is the first time I've really ever thought of Jason Mewes as an actor.
He's
pretty
great
good
too.
in it, and him and Harley both, they have some really, like, pretty emotional scenes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wasn't tearing up or anything.
But you did.
But they were heavy. They felt like they nailed that beat. I don't know what's up with these ying-a-ling-a-lings.
These yinglings are...
What's up, Erica, with these yinglings? They're exploding all over us.
Yeah, I'm surprised you still have some left.
Yeah.
I don't.
Anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh, emotional heavy scenes. Okay, so that was really a surprise, and that was good, and I liked to see that heaviness because the emotional beats in like Clerks 2 and Clerks 2 essentially is the emotional beats in that movie rock, and then like even Zack and Miri making porno, like the emotional beats in that movie land pretty solid. I think he's always done a really good job with that, and it was good to see that aspect. It almost feels out of place in the slapsticky world of a Jay and Silent Bob movie,
right?
But it worked. I thought it worked. And at the end, in a super meta, Kevin Smith himself is actually a character, and I actually thought he did a better job as himself than he did playing Silent Bob.
Well, and I think it was like an over-characterized Kevin Smith. You know, where he was like kind of not a bad guy, but a guy that none of them liked.
Right.
None of them liked him in the show, and he was like the epitome of like Hollywood guy.
Yeah.
You know, like Hollywood director. Nobody liked him. He acted like that. And I thought it was really great. I thought that was a good... At first, when I heard the name Kevin Smith muttered in the movie, I was like, this is that'll be dumb. If they bring him in here, that'll be dumb to see, you know, Silent Bob and Kevin Smith in the same movie. It wasn't.
Yeah, but it led the way for some great
James
it
wasn't.
Jokes.
It was really good. Yeah. Well, everything after that was all Kevin James.
Yeah.
Jason Mewes or Jay only called him Kevin James after that.
Yeah, I think like
funny.
Probably the best highlights for me were I love Jason Lee. I mean, it was almost the exact thing he did in the first movie, which is what was
so
great.
great.
But I really enjoyed that. I liked Chris Hemsworth.
Can you do the dance with the man?
No.
Do it. Come on.
Remember?
Yeah.
And then it's like, nah.
But he like sticks his tongue. Yeah. His tongue's sticking out.
So he was good. I like Chris Hemsworth had a funny little bit part that was really funny. But Ben Affleck rocked in it, man. He stole the show.
And they split it up into a couple different scenes,
long
but it was like
scenes,
one
though,
shot
but
that they did.
You know, it's a good 5-minute chunk of the movie. And Holden was always like my favorite character in the universe anyway.
Yes.
I love Chasing Amy is my favorite movie in the universe. Seeing him come back and it be super funny, really. And then also super like meta and aware at the same time. Like that was he's addressing the audience, and
that was the most nostalgic part for me.
Definitely.
Was bringing him back, and then him being it was almost like self-aware of the situation of him being separated from Kevin Smith in real world times.
Yeah.
But then bringing him back to the universe, and then him talking about like what he was involved with, what he missed.
And they wrapped up Chasing Amy, the cliffhanger at the end of that, and which was amazing.
That part was like emotional.
There were definitely some emotional beats too when he was talking about his daughter. You know, I think it was a little overly sappy, to be honest, but I still enjoyed it.
But at the time, I agree with you. But at the time, in the setting that we were at,
it worked
like
really
with
well.
the people we were with in that setting. Kevin Smith is there. Jason Mewes is there. You're watching their movie. Ben Affleck shows up, starts talking about chasing Amy.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. I always tend to look at the positive in everything. Like, just because I think that's
because you're an idiot.
Because I'm better than you in most ways. Because I like to look at positive instead of negative and be a Debbie Downer like you. And I thought it was great. I thought everything about it was great. It made me really happy. Made my insides melt.
Yeah.
And I fell in love all over again with Ben Affleck. And I told Amy, I was like, I don't know if this will work.
I'm leaving you.
Ben Affleck is now again in the View Askew universe.
He made some great Batman jokes too.
Holden McNeil is my new wife. So
so that part was good, and then I liked the ending too. It was I liked the very ending because you could tell. Obviously, he thought it was his last movie. I think that very ending was the closest we got to that moment in the jail in Clerks 2. Like that's when I really started to get the emotional beats of the whole movie, which at the time of each emotional beat felt a little misplaced, but the end is when they all kind of convene together.
I don't know if they ever felt misplaced, just lesser than the comedy around them.
Yes, they felt out of place in the surrounding of the comedy, and then they'd like come out of nowhere at you with this like weirdly overly emotional, sappy scene, which I enjoyed. I'm just saying, like, it didn't feel in place.
No, you're right.
And the ending, it felt in place at the end, and maybe that's because of all those scenes from before. You know, I don't know if that's an acting thing, or I thought it was a little odd, the transitioning that went on. There would be like literal slapstick comedy happening, and then like 2 seconds later, there's like a crying scene between.
Do you think that's poor directing?
It could be a combination of directing, acting, and writing.
That is a direct shot at the guy you like or love.
I mean, I still like the movie, and I still love Kevin Smith. He's my favorite of anybody, but it wasn't a perfect movie.
No, no, no. I won't say that.
I'm not going to say that it was a perfect movie, but
none of them are. I mean,
Chasing Amy is pretty close.
No,
Dogma's pretty close.
No, they're not close to being perfect. Pretty good. Clerks 2 is phenomenal. I love Clerks 2.
Clerks 2 is the best like movie like of a
yes.
You know,
I think Chasing Amy is the best indie type movie that he's done. Like all of them are indie movies, but I think
and best acting is Chasing Amy.
I just think Chasing Amy is overly
sappy,
wordy.
Yeah, that's why I love it.
No, but like there's just too many monologues.
I love a good monologue.
I do too, but when two people are having their own individual monologues in front of each other, it just gets too much.
I disagree with you.
How?
I don't know.
You can't have one like it's not realistic in real life to have somebody give this huge overarching story and monologue of their feelings and whatnot, and then the next person do the exact same thing.
Yeah. And we do every week, Jerry, on this podcast.
No, that's not what we do. That's not what we do. Do you want me to do that?
Overall, I give it out of a A to...
No, we have to do 10. I don't like 5s. 5s are stupid. I was coming in here, actually. I was going to do A, B, C, D. What?
Yeah, like...
That's fucking dumb.
That's what Dean does on WGN.
I don't care what he does.
Gives it a letter grade.
Nobody likes him.
A minus, B plus,
no,
B minus.
You have to give out of a 10. It's a 10 scale. You can do
of points. All movies or of Kevin Smith movies?
No. Just what you felt it was. I don't care, Chris. I don't care about all movies. I'm talking about our experience, overall experience of going there to the Roadshow, the drive up,
the overall
back.
Experience?
Yes.
The overall entire experience was like a 9 or a 10.
Okay.
Now, what do I think of the actual movie as far as a standalone movie?
No. Wait. Now listen to me.
Okay.
Here. You can't really have a 10. First of all, because that's perfect and means you could never surpass that.
Okay.
And you can never have another 10. You can't have two perfect things.
Okay.
It's not possible.
Fine.
So you have to go to a point structure.
It is
then.
possible, but yeah.
No, it's not. So then you go to a point structure,
Are you getting this from the pizza guy?
I am, because he's accurate. This is right.
The fucking obnoxious barstool pizza guy?
Yeah, I think his grading system is perfect.
Okay.
I really do.
Okay, bro.
You can never have... I mean, how many times have we said 100%?
Bro culture over here. Jerry and his bro culture. Barstool, sports, eating pizza.
I just think the pizza reviews are accurate, and I feel like his grading system is good.
Anyway,
That's all I'm saying.
He didn't go to any of the best pizza places in Chicago when he was here. That was weird.
He didn't. I agree with you.
It was very odd. He went to like Giordano's.
I'm not throwing him up as the best person in the world.
He's not a 10. He can't be a 10.
No, he can't be.
According to you and him.
His grading scale, though, is accurate.
Is his grading scale a 10?
And I want you... No, it's probably 9.8.
Okay. You want me to give it out of a 10? Okay, I will do that. But
of the movie.
Could you really quick do me a favor, though?
Yeah.
And I'll have an idea because I know your sensibilities here. What movie for you would be like a 9.5? Name a movie that would be a 9.5.
A 9.5?
Actually, no. That's easy. What movie would be a 5.0 for you?
Ooh, a 5. Oh, gosh.
Because that's you make it sound like that's bad, but it's really in the middle of the road.
No, I mean a 5 would be poor. I would say average score would be like a 7, 7.2.
Okay, so if you're not going to utilize any of the numbers under 5, then what's the point of this grading scale that goes all the way to 10?
I will utilize any of them, but they will be poor movies.
What's an example of a 5.0 movie then?
Well, I'd have to think. I wasn't prepared for this.
Like how good is Dances with Wolves?
8.2.
Okay, how good is like 10 Things I Hate About You?
6. That's a solid 6.
How good is Failure to Launch with Matthew McConaughey?
Who's in that with him?
Terry Bradshaw and Kate Hudson.
Oh, Kate Hudson. Oh, I do remember that movie. I would say that's in a 5.5 to 5.8.
Okay, because that's not a bad movie.
Really?
How good is What Women Want with Mel Gibson?
Huh. I kind of like that movie. I'd say 6.4.
Okay, I got to handle this scale now.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just needed a baseline to get. It's just like calibrating your combine.
It is.
You need to get like 6 or 7, and then you can check mark all those, and then you average it out, and you get it
right.
Yeah.
Typical calibrating.
Whoa! Yep. Oh,
hey-o.
The yingling got away from me.
It jumped.
It yinglinged.
It jumped up.
All right, so out of 10, my.
So why did you give me those movies to base it off of, just compared to what this movie is?
Just the movies I thought.
Why didn't you ask me about like what I gave Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
What did you give Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
I'd say a 7.
Okay, it's funnier than you remember. I bet.
You think?
It had a lot of laughs.
7.1 then.
So am I grading the movie or the experience?
Both.
Okay, experience, solid like 9.2.
That's a good
I
score.
had a
I
great
would give
time,
it that.
man.
I would give that.
We went to Chicago.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful day.
I know.
We saw Kevin Smith. We drank some beers. We had some popcorn. We watched a movie, which is my favorite thing to do
So
in the world.
the only thing that I would bring it down for, I'd bring it down to about a 9 even myself, is because we didn't get to go to dinner beforehand.
Yeah, that
I was like,
great.
I was ready like to have a dinner experience.
Yeah, there was a sushi place right next to there.
Yeah,
Have
that experience.
There was an empanada mercado.
Drink some beers, eat some sushi or whatever we walked into, then get into the line. That would have put me up to like a 9.4, 9.5.
Yeah, I agree. The movie on its own merits, just as a movie in general, if it wasn't as funny as it was, it would be, for me, scored a lot lower because of the acting and some of the problems there.
Yeah.
But I would say, I'd give it like a solid 6.8.
Oh, that's lower than I thought. A lot lower than I thought. I was going to give it, well, no, I am going to give it 7.4.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I enjoyed it a lot. I was very happy with it. The acting, a lot of people don't act that well in the movie. I really don't like the way Shannon Elizabeth acts.
Oh my
and it
God.
might be a choice. She might be making that choice for the character because I feel like she was the exact same way in
The first movie.
Yeah,
she
Jay and
was.
Silent
yeah.
Bob Strike Back. But was she? You can't judge it off of American Pie because she was only used as a
She's been in other stuff.
what? That's
She's-
the thing.
Oh, man. And she's been in other stuff. Actually, it's funny because right after we were talking about that,
Did you look it up?
no, but I was looking up, another movie got brought up completely, and I looked up that movie, and she was in it. 13 Ghosts.
Oh yeah, she was in that.
Yeah.
So was that one guy that reminds me of Ryan Reynolds, but is not Ryan Reynolds.
Tony Shalhoub?
No, no.
Because he was in it.
I know he was. No, the main character, the main guy.
Wait, he reminds you of Ryan Reynolds.
He
but
does.
He's not Ryan
I've
Reynolds.
always confused him and Ryan Reynolds together before I
What?
knew who Ryan Reynolds was. Yeah.
Who could you confuse with Ryan Reynolds? He's like
He was in Scream.
the pride of Canada.
Okay.
Are you
I
talking
don't
about
care.
like Matthew Lillard?
Is that his name? The guy that was in Scream and
And
13
Scooby-Doo?
Ghosts?
The guy from Scooby-Doo that played Shaggy is Matthew Lillard.
Yes, that guy.
You confuse him, that
I-
ugly ass
I used to.
mofo, with Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, I used to.
Man, that is a very odd thing.
Back when Ryan Reynolds was like a nobody.
Okay, she actually is in like a ton of stuff. I've
Okay.
never heard of any of it. One of them's a TV movie called Catch a Christmas Star. I bet that's on Hallmark.
Yeah, guaranteed.
That's a lot of like stuff I've never heard of, but she's definitely in things like a lot.
Yeah, I don't know, but nobody ever sees them. You know why?
It seems like
Because she can't act.
she had a bunch of episodes of Cuts, which I've never even heard of. That 70s show, she was on there for a while. That's getting back in the day, though.
Junk.
Yeah, no, I mean, not much, man. You're right. American Pie, 13 Ghosts, and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
That's it.
Scary movie. She was in, apparently.
Was she? Oh yeah, she was. Yes,
Yes.
she was. I remember that. The first one, Scary Movie. Yeah.
Well, anyway, yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a great time.
Okay. So 7.4 and a 6.8.
Yeah, but a 9.2 on the experience.
Right. And I would also give it a 9 experience.
Yeah. So that was a long thing.
Yeah.
So do you want to do some real quick news?
Okay.
Really quick news.
Go for it.
They've announced Kevin Conroy is going to play Batman on Crisis, the CW
Like it.
show. Live action. He's going to be a version of Batman.
Well, yeah, he was always going to be Bruce Wayne.
Oh, you already knew this?
Well, yeah, they put that out a long time ago.
Check that off the list.
We talked about it a long time ago.
Okay.
And
It's fine. We don't need to talk about it anymore.
He filmed it already. Like it's already been a thing. Chris.
Lord and Miller, the creative duo behind the Lego movie
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse,
Oh, I
have-
didn't know they did that.
signed a gigantic deal with Sony to the tune of 9 zeros plus. This is like
Holy smokes.
$400 million, something like that.
Really?
They gave them to start and run a Spider-Man live-action TV universe.
A live action TV universe.
Multiple shows. Many shows.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm not sure what network that's going to be on, but they signed the deal, I believe, with
But
Sony.
it's all through Sony. It has to be.
So that includes cartoons, live-action shows, spin-off shows. They're going to have all different Spider-Man stuff going on.
Wow.
Yeah, over the next 10 years. So, you know,
That's huge.
I'm guessing since they have Tom Holland as Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe, they're going to go the Miles Morales route.
Yeah.
Would be the smartest play there.
Yeah.
To not have another Peter Parker. Very easy to do with Spider-Man. There's been many different iterations. So, well, not many different, but there's one.
Yeah. There's a lot. Yeah.
So my guess is they'll go that route, or they could focus on villains or side characters and do all kinds of things there. So thought that was interesting, more for the fact that A, we're going to get amazing Spider-Man content, and B, they're going to get like $500 million.
Yeah. They'll
Speaking
get a lot
of
of money.
How many? Do I got the right amount of digits there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of another 9-digit deal,
Okay.
Netflix handed one off, a 9-digit deal, for I believe $300 to $500 million in that range.
Okay.
For Benioff and Weiss.
Benioff and Weiss
Of
were
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, yes.
Netflix now owns them.
Those people, not Game of Thrones.
Correct. They own
Yes.
those creators, and so they will be doing everything for Netflix.
For Netflix.
Their next shows.
Creating new shows.
For however many years that contract is, 5 years, maybe 10 years, I don't know.
Wow.
But that's a big deal.
It is a big deal, but
there's no content there. They're just getting
I
the
know.
creators. So maybe they never have another Game of Thrones. You got to remember, they didn't come up with the idea or write.
So that's what I was going to bring up.
They did
is
write
that-
a bunch of the Game of Thrones episodes.
But as soon as George R.R. Martin was kind of out of the picture when they didn't have a book to follow, you ever saw what happened there?
Yeah, well, they did still run that show for 8 seasons. And
They did.
Made HBO a boatload? What's the official term for making billions and billions of dollars? A shipload? You can't.
No, I would
can't
say
yawn,
I
Jerry.
couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop it. It
We're
hit
on
me.
a live podcast here.
It hit me, and I couldn't stop it. And now you're going to because they're contagious.
No, I don't. No, I won't.
Oh yeah, you will.
Sociopaths don't yawn when other people yawn.
Oh really?
Yeah, that's
You're a
fact.
complete psychopath.
Sociopath.
Psychopath?
Sociopath.
What's the difference?
One has socio in the beginning, and one has psycho at the beginning.
So you're both killers.
Anyway,
I mean, that's fact.
Benioff and Weiss. So that's exciting. I think that's a big deal for Netflix, who's honestly
It is, but
falling behind in the streaming wars.
I don't think that Benioff and Weiss are going to create very good stuff.
Well,
I think that they were using
they have a Star Wars trilogy.
originated content.
This doesn't affect the Star Wars trilogy, which they have apparently been signed for. So
Yeah, I still I don't know. They don't
seem to
they
me
don't do it
certainly
for
it's
me.
the same caliber as Lord and Miller.
Caliber. No. Caliber.
As Lord and Miller, who did the Lego franchise and
Right.
Spider-Man.
No,
into the
I feel like
Spider-Verse,
they are much above them. I do.
That's all I know. Other than
I have some
it's
news.
getting interesting, like Netflix, and there's so many other. We were going to talk more about streaming services. I know we had some people.
Yeah, we should.
Like Apple's coming in a big way.
Yeah, they are.
And they've apparently said
And-
now that if you
and
buy
quietly.
and if you buy a new phone or iPad or anything this fall before Christmas season, they're going to give you Apple Plus for a year.
Really?
Or I don't know if it's called Apple Plus, but whatever their streaming service is. I just don't know. They've announced a bunch of stuff they're
I
gonna
got to
have
look
on
into
there.
it more because they've come a little bit more quietly than
We'll talk about it on the next
everyone
episode.
else.
We'll go more in depth because there's another streaming service coming out called Peacock.
I've never even heard of it.
It's
I'll have to
NBC's.
Search that.
It's going to be NBC Universal's
Makes
streaming
sense.
service called Peacock. Terrible name, but
It is kind of shitty.
they've announced a bunch of shows, a bunch of cool sounding shows. CBS has announced more shows. CBS quietly, they keep adding stuff now. They have Star Trek, and then they announced Picard's coming. They did the Twilight Zone quietly, which I
Yeah, they
freaking love
did.
the Twilight Zone. And they've
Have you
announced-
watched the new one?
No.
Oh,
And then they've announced a couple new shows that are going to come to CBS All Access. So I don't know. Maybe it's something
They're
to
doing it.
look for. I mean, I don't know if anybody can beat Disney. And Netflix is so entrenched.
I don't think you have to beat them though. I think you just have to have something that people want to see, which each one of these creators and services have. I think they all have something that people want to come to, which then drives them to purchase the streaming service for a certain amount of time.
I wonder on Apple because, the first thing you'd think is, everybody's going to get the Apple one. But
I don't think that.
I don't think so at all. I don't
that.
know a lot of people that use Apple TV.
I don't.
Most people
I'm
use-
an Apple guy, and I don't use Apple
No,
TV.
I have used it. I don't like it as much as Fire TV,
Oh, really?
Amazon's at all. But if you have a Apple TV, so I just I'm curious as to whether the Apple streaming service will work on my Fire TV, or if you have to have an Apple TV. You cannot keep this yawning
I'm
going.
sorry. I
can't do
stop. I can't stop doing it.
All right, let's move on.
So we're not talking about Apple anymore?
No.
Okay.
You said you had one more news.
Oh, I do. So we had a Joker review a while ago about the movie, and we didn't know if they would do a second movie or not. And this isn't necessarily like 100%, but the article I read was saying that their Warner Brothers has seen how much money Joker is making. And even though they didn't want to foot any of the bill for the movie originally, is now claiming like they are going to make a second Joker movie guaranteed.
Well, of course they are.
And
that movie's going to make $1 billion.
And they're going to but what they're going to do is bring in more villains from the Batman universe.
So they're going to make Gotham.
Basically, yeah, into this Joker world. And they're going to bring the villains. They're going to bring, what the article said is that they're going to bring the same villains that they're using in the Matt Reeves, the Batman movie, into this movie. Not the same actors, but the same villains, because they are separate universes.
Okay, I don't like that at all. That's not the right direction to go with that franchise.
But you literally said in the review you would be okay with us completely separate universes.
Absolutely.
And so would I.
So would I. I wouldn't make it about that. I would have Batman in it.
They're not going to. They're
I
going
think
to do
that's
a
a
villains.
mistake.
So what they're planning on doing now, according to this review, and they were saying, or this article, and they were saying that it's a credible source from Warner Brothers, that they're going to bring in these villains in the second Joker movie, and then from there, each one of those villains is going to get their own movie.
That's a bad idea.
So we'll see how it goes.
That's DC failing yet again.
I don't think it's a bad idea.
It's a terrible
I think it's
idea.
a different take.
We don't need more
They're saying
villain movies just because Joker made $1 billion.
I know.
That's the only reason they're saying that. What they should do,
this isn't, and this is very, very far out.
yeah,
To
what they
whether
should do
it'll happen
is
or not.
definitely have Batman in it. Just make the movie from Joker's vantage point.
Right.
Have Batman in it as a main character. Make the make the second or the third movie be straight up like the Killing Joke.
Right. I agree.
But you have to have the next movie be established, Commissioner Gordon and all that.
Yeah.
Because you make it about the three of them.
So they're saying they would have so the Joker 2, and then they would have Two-Face, the Penguin, Riddler.
Dumb. This is a terrible idea.
And that's all they put out. So they would say they would have a Penguin standalone movie, a Two-Face standalone movie.
Those movies will fail.
And I don't understand how you can have like a Two-Face standalone movie without Batman,
Yeah.
because he's the direct cause of what happened to Two-Face.
This is the problem.
Canon-wise.
Movie studios, they're idiots.
Penguin, you could have a standalone movie, and I think it could be decent if you do it.
Okay,
the
you
right
can have
way.
a standalone movie of any of them, and that can be good, but it's not going to happen.
Is it necessary?
It's not.
We don't need them. We don't need something like that. You don't need the villain as the main character in every single movie just because you had one that was successful that you didn't back to begin with.
Right.
You didn't back it. What scares me more so than them making those movies is the fact that Warner Brothers is backing them. And because Warner Brothers has failed on every movie that they've produced for DC.
Not every movie.
I mean,
What about
most
the Dark Knight?
Most DC movies that Warner Brothers has done after the Nolan verse has failed. It has not done well. And I don't like anything
Well,
they've put out.
first of all, they've all
And it
made
scares
a
me.
boatload of money.
It scares me more that they would get involved with it when the Joker had no involvement of Warner Brothers whatsoever. Besides, they didn't fund any of it or help them. It was basically an indie movie. I mean, I know it's still tied to them, but Like, it was an independent film, basically, is the way it was made. You can see that. If they could keep going in that direction, it would be great. I think they could make a lot of good movies if they stayed on the lower budget side of things, and we've talked about that before. But if they try to go huge, big budget films and like blow these things up, I think that's exactly what it's going to do, and then blow up in their face.
If they try to be like, okay,
well.
we're going to make a mob movie called Penguin, and we're going to make the Penguin the main character. That's not a good idea.
No.
Just make a fucking mob movie.
Right. I mean, I'm going to watch all of these movies because I want to see what they're like.
I think it'd be way more interesting to do
I don't know what you'd do.
If you want to do something like that, then make 3 Joker movies, bring Batman into them, and then branch out into other villain movies with Batman as a periphery character already established.
I don't think you can have these movies without Batman involved.
I think it's dumb to not tie the Joker movie in with a new Batman movie. That doesn't make any sense.
We talked about that in the review, and I think it would be a good idea to have him tied into the Batman movie because I really feel like that's how you build the universe.
Right.
You can have both of them come out separate and not have the first 2 movies tied to each other at all. But maybe, like in the Batman movie, hint to a person that's rising up. But then again, the time frame's not right. So
just fix that. Just do something else to fix that. It's not a big deal.
For Joker 2, you could fix that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, you've established, you've made the Joker movie.
You know Bruce Wayne is alive.
Do it just like Marvel did it. You got a Joker franchise. Make the Joker now the background character that interconnects the whole universe. You know?
Yeah.
Or Batman. Oh, well, no, because the next movie will be Batman. But make him the boss of all the criminals. But then in the Batman movies, they're all or the Joker's in the shadow behind there somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a way to do it. But.
All you got to do in the Batman movie that comes out is say, you know, they could have like a little story arc in there about, or like even just like an old news article about what happened 20 years prior, 15 years prior, whatever, you know, to say, well, depending on how old Robert Pattinson is in the movie, you could say 17 to 20 years prior, this is what happened. This guy went nuts and, you know, Arthur Fleck did whatever he did and nobody knows where he went. And then all of a sudden he makes an appearance again, like later towards the end of the film. And then coming into Joker 2 or the next Batman movie, you could have him as a main character. He doesn't have to be a main character in the Batman film, but you could like hint towards him and say 20 years ago, this happened. Right. And Batman could be knowledgeable of it because in the Joker movie, they have Bruce Wayne as a, 9 or 10-year-old boy, whatever he is. Like right when his parents die, which is obviously the creation of Batman.
What I would do is do a Batman movie that has the Joker in it.
Yeah.
That establishes, Commissioner Gordon and Batman and the Joker. They're all in it. Then make a third movie. That's the Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Him trying to drive them crazy. Barbara Gordon gets shot. Now she's Oracle. Bam. Now you're in no man's land. Or in the middle there, you do a couple other solo villain movies with Batman as a side character and Joker as the overarching villain, maybe just in a scene.
Right.
And then you tie that all together. Then you do your second Batman movie with some other larger threat, but this is the one where he loses. And at the end of that movie, it leads directly into the no man's land situation. Right. And that's a two-part thing like Infinity War was. Bam, bing, bang, boom. That's what you need to do.
Well, let's write it. Let's do it tomorrow.
I mean, it's so simple.
Are you busy tomorrow?
It's so simple.
I don't think you are. Let's write it tonight.
I think I just did write it.
Well, I mean, you gave an outline.
That's all I can do. I mean, the content's already written. No Man's Land is already a book.
It's already there. You just
the
follow
Killing
the
Joke
story.
is just there. It's all there, man.
No. You have to understand that if you're going to do something in Hollywood, you have to change original content to your own. Even though you call it original content.
This would allow you to have, you could have a Robin movie.
Do we need that?
If this universe is what it is, I mean, you could make basically the MCU, but it'd only be Batman, and it would work.
Yeah, I guess you could.
I mean, instead of 21 films, it's 12.
Right.
Or 22, whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't think we need 21 films. I really don't. I don't think it could go that long.
The phone's ringing.
Yeah. Can we?
All right, we're back after a break.
Sorry.
Because Jerry's a child.
No, I'm not.
You're a child.
Did you hear how long?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Headphones, and there's a microphone pointed at the door.
And it's long. It was long. It was like a camel. Like I have this enormous bladder. I don't know. Some may call it a blessing. I call it a curse. Because when it lets loose, it's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like just a long pee.
All right.
It is just.
That kind of fizzled out there.
It did, but it's so long.
All right. Well, enough about Jerry's urination habits. We have a major topic at hand. Do you want to get to that first, or do you want to do what we're watching?
No, I want to talk about unidentified flying objects. Aliens.
This all got brought about because I've been spending a lot of time in the combine, and you've been spending a lot of time in tractor.
Yeah.
And we've been listening to podcasts. And
we have.
I've listened to caught up on all my favorite podcasts, but I don't regularly listen to Joe Rogan that much anymore because I don't have that much time to listen to podcasts, so I listen to the two main ones that I like.
And a lot of them haven't interested me.
No, really, honestly, no.
I've looked at a lot of
them. Jumping around a lot.
Yeah, they haven't jumped out at me, but there was a guy that was on, and so I don't remember what's the director name, the guy that was on the show besides the.
I don't know.
So there was a Navy pilot on an episode, and then there was another guy that was on there, and he was on the same episode as Bob Lazar. So
yeah.
Joe Rogan had a guy on his name was Bob Lazar. He came out with a book and a documentary about his life, basically, and him working at Area 51 and doing whatever he did at Area 51.
And that was literally the beginning of that whole Storm Area 51 thing.
Yeah.
That came from that podcast.
Basically from the podcast. Yeah, you're right. And so he was talking about that. Well, there was a director guy. I feel like his name was Jamie too, or something like that. But I don't like him.
No, he seems kind of like an
douche.
Opportunistic douchey.
Yeah, he really is. And he's got his beard all...
I didn't see him, so I don't know.
Well, you need to look on YouTube. He's got his beard all trimmed out, and just the way he talks. I don't like him at all. He feels like he attaches himself to these people.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
After the fact, and then all of a sudden starts to talk like, "Oh, well, I experienced the exact same thing." No, you didn't. You have nothing to do with this. You're just the guy that wants to be involved. Anyway, he was on the show too, but this Navy pilot,
it's like a weird tangent.
Just aggravates me that he's even involved with it. Like he didn't need to be there at all.
Right.
He had no part in the episode whatsoever.
But right on target. Jerry's right on target.
I'm just saying, if you listen to the episodes that we're going to talk about, that guy has no part in it. He holds no weight in any of these episodes.
Right.
But he's involved with them somehow. Bob Lazar was in Area 51.
He was like an engineer, right?
Yeah.
Or some kind of an engineer.
Right, which we'll talk about.
And it's a good episode. And we'll talk about it more, but he's got a very interesting and believable story.
Right. So then in his story affects the story from this Navy pilot. And now I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name?
No. It's one of the newer episodes. I mean, Lieutenant Colonel something or other.
Yeah, I think it was Commander or something. Whatever. He piloted an FA-18 Hornet, and they were on a mission.
Super Hornet, right?
Yeah.
He had the newest plane. It was the newest plane out.
At the time. This was 2004. They were off the East Coast. or West Coast. And flying around doing like practice missions, like where they were targeting each other, just like practicing. And then they were sent off on an actual like
Commander David Fravor.
David Fravor. Okay.
And Jeremy something or other.
I knew it was Jeremy or Jamie. Or
well, actually,
Jeremy
you
something.
said it was
Jamie.
Jamie.
I did.
So you didn't know.
I knew it was a J with an R involved.
Jeremy Corbell.
Yeah.
Corbell. And Commander David Fravor, episode 1361.
So what he says is that they were sent off on an actual mission to go investigate something that was shown on radar or that they picked up.
Something showed on radar, and they were out on training anyway.
Just training.
And the Air Battle Command Center person said, hey, go over here because we've been seeing these interesting, weird things, which come to find out later, they'd been observing for weeks, months, actually, and without an investigation. But they just happened to be flying in the area, and it was happening at the time, so they went to check it out.
So they do that, and they end up seeing, he ends up seeing this white
well, first of all, they could
object.
see in the ocean this huge area of turbulent ocean.
Right.
And they thought that was odd. It was a very calm day. And so they moved in closer to investigate, and they found this white, I don't remember the size of it, but
he said it was like 40 feet.
Pretty big.
He said if they...
Like a school bus then.
Yeah. If you measured it on their screen, he said, because they were like at 20,000 feet at the time. He's like, but, you know, I've done this so many times. I know how big things are on the screen in front of me. He's like, and if you were to measure it on the screen, it'd be roughly 40 feet.
Yeah. And it was it looked like a Tic Tac.
Yeah. It was white.
And I mean, this guy is, first of all, this guy is a not screwing around guy. This is a very high level Navy commander, pilot. He was the lead of the entire squadron.
Right. Everybody like reported to him.
I mean, he is a super well-known, very highly respected long-term military pilot.
And so
this isn't like a crazy loon. This is like a real deal military man. What
really caught my attention before any of this, like before he was even explaining the story and what they were doing, he's like, listen, he's like, I've got like about 4,500 hours of flight time, over 4,000 hours of flight time, like in a plane flying. He said, and I've only witnessed one incident like this. He said, and it lasted about 4 minutes. He's like, and my entire career is based off of this 4 minutes. He's like, I can't. Why would I lie about 4 minutes of my life?
I mean, first of all, it's clear when you listen to him,
he's very
he is
intelligent.
Not lying.
No. He's not.
He is not lying, and he is not a liar, and he is not looking for attention. And he has nothing to gain from this.
He doesn't care about gaining anything
He honestly
from
doesn't
this.
even really care about it.
He didn't even know who Joe Rogan was before this. And he's like, I guess I'll go on this show to talk about it.
But this was a big deal. So it wasn't just him. There was a whole other plane with a younger pilot. And then with them, there was also their weapons people. There's 2 people in the cockpit. I believe it's a Hornet or Super Hornet.
So his plane is the one that flew down to like 5,000 feet and got pretty close to it. He said he was within a half mile of it, which, you know, is 2,000, 2,200 feet.
And it was rotating. It rotated, it reoriented a couple times. And it also then started moving up.
Yeah, and they couldn't pick it up on radar. Their Doppler radar would not pick it up whatsoever. So there was some sort of active jamming, is what they called it, that would not let it pick it up on radar. But they could physically see it. At one point, it did disappear from them, and it just literally vanished. So they had infrared, TV, and he explains it in the podcast. So infrared obviously shows you a heat signature. So if it's hot, it will show up white compared to what the air temperature is. So it does show up white, but there's no plumes of engine heat or anything else coming
There's
off
no
of
propellant.
it. Like no propellant is coming off of the actual craft, yeah. And so then in the video that you can watch on YouTube, it shows the infrared at first, and then it goes to TV, and it's just basically a black and white TV. And he says the only reason he switches to that is to try to get closer to it, so you can see a closer image of it. So then when it switches to TV, it makes it black instead of white, but you could still see an engine plume of a heat signature from that if it had one.
Right.
You don't see that in that video. And he's just switching from video to video, different types of things that they have on the plane, to try to get a lock on it and try to figure out like how far they are from it, what it's doing, how fast it's going, anything like that. The radar couldn't pick it up. Basically the only two things that you could see is the infrared and the TV. But the radar didn't know where it was at or what it was doing. And they just watched this thing hover in front of them. And it shows you like the degrees it's off of the nose of the plane, left or right. And it's like 3 or 4 degrees left, just hovering there. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it just takes off.
Yeah.
Off to the left of the screen. And he said...
At an extreme amount of speed.
Right, because he said if...
A propulsion that's not... It's just not even anything that... We don't have anything at all that can go from a standstill to that kind of speed that instantaneous.
So when you watch it on TV...
Like a rocket doesn't move. It's slowly...
Right. So if you watch it on the screen, you see it zip off to the side. But it's not like instantaneous. You just see it zip off to the side. And then... So right off the bat for a layman like us, like we wouldn't think much of it. But like he said if you take an F-22, the most capable plane right now, like anything that is in the world right now, an F-22 can probably do. He's like, if you were tracking that, he's like, the pod that is on the plane would be able to track it to the left if it was going whatever direction it was going. It could track it the entire time until you meet the limits of the pod, and then it would stop, obviously, and it would go off screen. He's like, but you would easily be able to follow that. It wouldn't be hard to do. And Joe Rogan asks him, what would it look like? Would it be able to zoom off like that? Would anything be able to zoom off like that? And he's like, no, we don't. There's nothing that, it's running at an incredible rate of speed. And the reason why it, strikes me as him telling the truth is because he didn't say, I think it's going 2,000 miles an hour. Or if you rate his speed, it's at this. No, he's like, I don't even know how to rate
Well,
this
and he
for
also
you.
never at any point says he thought it was an alien. He says it is a UFO because by definition it is an unidentified
Anything
flying
could
object.
be.
But the so there's no doubt that this guy's telling the truth. There's 4 other people that saw it. There's video of it. So what I found interesting was kind of after that when they started realizing that this had been going on for a while. These things have been moving in and out of our atmosphere and going down to the ocean.
In the ocean.
And they've noticed things happening in the ocean. And
yeah.
Is there a dog in here?
Huh? It sounded like it.
The idea that, it's clearly not a propulsion system that we have any grasp of. It's clearly a gravitational propulsion system.
So that's where it ties into Bob Lazar,
Right.
is that they talk about the way it was moving and how fast it could move, and they're saying that it is defying gravity.
Right.
It is moving in between gravity, basically. It's
using gravity as a force somehow. You gotta understand, we don't understand what gravity is.
We don't understand.
We understand how to calculate it.
Right.
But nobody can explain what it is.
So they're saying it's basically creating its own space.
Right.
In gravity. And then using gravity to fold around it, basically, to push it forward.
Right.
Is the premise, is what I understand it is. And then Bob Lazar was saying that So what Bob Lazar did when he was at Area 51 is they claimed to have a spaceship or a UFO that they found, and then the propulsion system for that was in this like cube box thing, and they were trying to study it and figure out how it worked. And that's what he was talking about, is that it was, I don't remember if he said it was creating its own gravity or it didn't go by like specific rules of our own gravity.
Right.
They could not figure out how it was creating energy. And he studied it for a long time. And to this day, I still don't think they've ever figured out. They created an element. It was like element 151 or something.
Yeah.
That could sustain that energy for a short amount of time, but it would degrade, like immediately
According to
degrade.
this guy.
Yes.
I mean,
yes. This is all according to these
and
people.
I don't know anything about this Bob Lazar guy. I've listened to that podcast. I tried to watch the documentary. It's very hard to watch. I gave up on that. Now, this military guy, I have no doubt of. So, and it follows what he's saying, and there's no reason in the world why you wouldn't believe this guy. And, he's not saying anything specific, but then it becomes interesting because they kept saying, well, we got a UFO. So what's the most likely scenario, right? It's that it's some kind of technology that either our government or some other foreign government has made and is using. And you kind of think about that and you're like, okay, yeah. I mean, that's what we think of when we think of Area 51. We're like, oh, okay, they were testing new planes, and there's all kinds of stuff about that, which I believe Area 52 was probably the United States government testing stealth technologies.
51 or 52?
Either one.
Okay.
Did I say 51?
No, you said 52.
Area 50, isn't it Area 52? Area 51, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was 51. Now you got me questioning whether it was 51
Is it
or 52.
Area 50? It's 51.
Area 52?
Sounds right, though, doesn't it?
Wow, it does. What the fuck? Now I don't know what it is.
It's definitely 51.
Area 52?
Area 52 is like the...
51. It's 51.
Well,
the first thing that came
there
up,
is an Area 52. It's just like where all the porta potties are and like the lunchroom.
Just, yes.
They're like, hey, Bob, where are you
Hey,
going?
you go
I'm going over to Area 52 over there. I gotta take a dump.
Hey, man, I got to take a shit in Area 52.
I gotta warm up this hot pocket.
I got to go over to Jersey 52, Take a dump.
Are you coming back over to 51 later?
Yeah, let me
Well,
get
I'll see you back over there, but I gotta go over here. I gotta make a dabadoo.
I gotta get my gabagoo. I gotta get my cup of cold.
The wife got me some soup. I gotta heat it up over there at 52.
You ever got a good chowder? They got a good chowder in 52. How did that happen?
So anyway, but it makes sense when you start talking about everything they saw, and you're like, yeah, I get it. I mean, a gravitational propulsion system makes sense. Doesn't violate necessarily any law of physics that we know of. We just don't know anything about how to do it, but that doesn't mean anything. So you think, okay, maybe another government figured it out.
Sure.
Okay. And you got to remember, this is 2004. Right?
2004, yeah.
And then he makes a good point, which I never thought of and totally makes sense. And I believe 100% explains the situation. He goes, if somebody had an anti-gravitational propulsion system, that would be the biggest advancement in human history.
Absolutely.
Of all time. It would revolutionize the way we do
everything.
Every single thing.
All of flight would change. Nothing that we know of would be the same.
Climate change, it would solve that problem. It would solve every problem. They go, so you're telling me that somebody in this world had that technology in 2004, some government, Russian government,
and never said a word.
Never said a word, and it hasn't manifested itself. Whoever came up with that technology or came out with it would make trillions of dollars.
Well, and it'd be impossible to keep secret.
Now, could you keep that secret for 2 years?
Sure.
5 years?
Maybe.
10 years? But now you're getting...
I don't even think you could keep it secret for 10 years.
We're talking about 15 years.
Well, 2004, we're talking, 15 years. Almost 16 years since was seen to where you have successful enough flights to where it's identified like in flight from a plane.
Right. So at that point,
I mean,
it becomes clear to me. I believe this guy saw what he saw. Other people have seen it. Okay, check. B, I believe that it's not a propulsion system. I mean, it's clear from his evidence and his experience. That's what you got to understand. This guy's experience as a Navy fighter pilot.
I mean, when you're talking over 4,000 hours of just flight time, that's him sitting in the seat flying a plane. 4,000 hours.
Yeah, and these guys, like, okay, my dad's a pilot. He hangs out with a lot of pilots.
Yeah.
These guys know what they're talking about when they're, and these guys are flying their own small planes, stunt planes, stuff like that. They know what they're talking about. Now take that to a military Navy fighter pilot.
You're talking about the most advanced equipment,
and then
in the
talk
air.
about a guy that's a commander of a squadron of Navy. I mean, this guy knows what he's talking about.
And then he started talking about being in D.C. talking to high-level government officials.
And they're basically like, yeah. Well, that's what I was getting to next. So I go, okay, I believe this guy. I believe what he saw. I believe that he knows what he's talking about in regards to the propulsion system. I believe in the fact that it's unlikely that any sort of technology like that would be existing for now 15 plus years without getting brought out into the world. And then further than that, you get the next little tidbit, which is like, oh, and guess what? Also, this has been going on for a long time, and everybody knows it.
And yes, so there are people that are watching, you know, I don't know if, I don't think it's radar, because he was saying it couldn't come up on radar, but they were watching, you know, they're scanning the oceans around us and the airspace around us to make sure that people aren't invading. And they were saying that, or he was saying that the people watching these videos at one time were seeing 36 unidentified objects at a time just pop up out of the ocean. And then I don't know if you remember, Chris, but he had talked about these like cubes, like they were like squares that were visible in the air with an orb around them, like a visible orb circle around a square in the middle, that were floating around one of those Tic Tac like shaped ships.
I don't remember that, but
so that's what he was talking about. Is like he said that
it was docking or like transferring energy or information or something.
Yeah, he said they were like
he was saying at one point
there was multiple
saying,
ships around
there was
one
stuff underwater, and then they were like somehow transporting or communicating or.
Well, he said that so those orbs with the squares around them, and he said I had not seen these. He said, but the guy who took the original video, the guys that were scanning like the offshore area, had seen multiple of these like cubes and like orbs around the cubes. There was a field around these vessels or whatever, ships or whatever, offshore. There was like 36 to 38 of them that they had saw around one of those Tic Tac ships that he recorded. And like I said, he said he had not seen any of these things, but multiple people have. And the guy that videotaped the Tic Tac ship with him in the other F-18 had seen
female pilot.
Was it a female?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I wasn't aware of that.
Relatively new pilot.
So she had seen those after the fact.
Okay.
And then they had also talked about another instance. They kept calling it the Nimitz. The Nimitz.
Yeah, I didn't quite follow that part, but yeah.
You guys got to listen to this episode because.
But the point is, that
it blew me away.
What you find out later is that like, not only were they experiencing watching this for a while, but like, you know, whether you want to believe it or not, the government knows and has confirmed the existence of UFOs. They have for a while now. They have created 2 separate departments specifically just for the research and tracking of UFOs.
So I know
according to the United States government, officially, there are UFOs.
There are UFOs, but
this was put out in a New York Times article or Washington Post article a couple years ago, And it was a big deal at the time. I didn't really catch it at the time, but it was a big deal at the time. And that was at that time when they released all that funding, the government basically confirmed, yeah, we believe this is happening.
Yeah.
And we're going to spend a very small amount of money, by the way, but we're going to spend a little bit of money putting these organizations in charge of figuring it out.
So what you have to remember, though, is what you call a UFO does not mean aliens.
I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is UFO, unidentified flying objects.
I'm just saying, like, to the general public right now.
The government has not confirmed the existence of aliens.
Exactly.
Just of UFOs. Now, so I find that interesting. Because we live in a culture where it's just automatic to not believe in UFOs.
Absolutely.
And the reality is, and I was the same way. Okay?
Until I was...
Not just until listening to this, until I started doing a little more researching. And after you do a little bit of research and you start really reading it, and you're like, oh, there's like
wait a minute,
hundreds of thousands of accounts. I mean, this isn't like isolated like Billy Bob and his pickup truck getting abducted by aliens, although there is a lot of that.
Sure there is. And he says this in the episode, is that he says... There are multiple times in my life, in my flight time, in my time as a pilot, that we would fly off the West Coast with just IR, just goggles on, like night vision goggles on. He's like, and you'd fly off the West Coast and you'd see campfires pop up. He's like, and as soon as we'd see those campfires, he's like, we're just flying around at night. We could do whatever we want. He's like, I was in charge. We could do whatever. He's like, and I'd see a campfire, and he's like, all right, we're going to go over there. He's the pilot. So he's like, I'd kick it down to idle. He's like, and at idle.
They're silent, by the
so
way.
many
when they put power
feet.
all the way back.
He's like, we're basically gliding.
They're gliding. They're silent.
We're gliding. There's no sound. He's like, and I would coast down to, I can't remember how many feet he said, but we would coast down above them. He's like, we'd get directly above them. He's like, and all of a sudden I'd pull it up as hard as I could, and I'd kick it in all the way to afterburners, which like as hard as you could go.
Loudest thing in the world.
Right. He's like, I'd kick in afterburners, huge flame shoot out the back of the plane. He's like, and I'd go straight up in the air. He's like, and then turn it off.
Yeah.
He's like, and as soon as I would do that, when I'd get back to base or back to the ship or whatnot,
UFO sighting.
There'd be like 10 different people reporting UFO sightings.
Right.
So when he said that, I was like, this was all before he ever saw any UFOs. He did that shit on purpose.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of that, and I'm sure 90% of everything they see.
And he said, he's like, because Joe asked him, he's like, so you did that? He's like, oh yeah, absolutely. He's like, was there anybody else? He's like, oh, I know of a lot of people that did
Everybody. And wouldn't you? I mean...
Yeah. You have the capability. Like, it's funny.
It only costs the American taxpayer $100 million to do that, but yeah.
It honestly doesn't affect any of that.
Here's my point
budgeted.
is,
apparently
when you start
how
really
budgets work. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to get into government budgeting.
Really?
It's when you really start to look at it like objectively, without any bias, without any like, oh, it's ridiculous. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And you start looking at it and you're like, okay, there's a lot of people and there's a lot of accounts that have nothing to gain. And also like this whole Tic Tac thing, like they've got like Tic Tac vehicle UFO sightings going back like hundreds of years. In the episode, they talk about that and they talk about different things. And this is what I thought was weird is that Jeremy guy said in the episode, he's like, there's a written account of Christopher Columbus, seeing a UFO, something in the sky, flying. Now, yeah, who knows?
I'm going to call bullshit on this and say like, it could have been a meteor coming through the sky.
Right.
And those people at the time would think that's a UFO.
Why?
You could write
you
that.
You think you're smarter than them?
Absolutely, I do.
You're smarter than Christopher Columbus.
100%.
He circumnavigated the Atlantic Ocean
I
and
could
discovered
easily do that. You just use the stars.
The New World.
It's a star chart.
If
we
you
have those charts all the time.
The stars, then you know about meteors.
No, they wouldn't.
You don't think they knew about meteors in 1492
No, I don't.
when Columbus sailed the ocean blue?
I don't.
You're wrong.
I don't think they did. And I think the dude was a racist.
You know what? That's debunked, by the way.
Whoa.
First of all, do we need to get in this? Because I got into so the other day.
What's debunked? He didn't find the world, first of all.
Nobody said that he did.
Quit acting like you know.
But he did basically lead to the finding and settling of this new land. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There were other Europeans that had come here before.
Correct.
They believe that there was other Africans that have actually sailed before to this continent.
Okay.
There are people of African heritage that they believe sailed from Africa to South America and maybe even to the Caribbean. So I'm not saying he was the first person here, but this whole like pile on it, like liberal, like Columbus was a horrible, evil human being that it was full of.
I think at the time though it was okay.
It's not true though. That's not true. There's
How do
no
you know?
evidence because I listened to Neil deGrasse Tyson to do a whole paper
because he
on
would
it.
know.
Well, he did the research and he did a whole thing on it, speech on it.
I could give a speech on anything too.
Okay, I'm saying that he researched it and he tells the actual truth. Do you want to hear the truth?
But you don't. Here's the thing: is like, how do you know it's the actual truth
From actual
Columbus?
writings of the time? So this whole idea that he was a monster,
Yeah,
that's here. Like there's not any basis for fact of that in the actual historical record of the time. There is one piece of written literature that talks about how he was a horrible person. One. It was written by his political rival.
Aha.
At the time.
Politics.
And it
always comes down
and
to
it
politics,
wasn't even
doesn't
that
it?
bad because he was a politician or something. And it wasn't even that bad. But what happened is, so somebody started spreading whatever they wanted to say about him.
Yeah, they're like, Chris is a dick.
But then so that guy writes an article. The next guy writes an article about the guy's article. Okay, now the third guy writes an article about an article.
Do you think it's just his name?
No.
Like Chris?
I think
like just
it's
the name
I
Chris?
think it's rumor and hearsay. So people hear something, they repeat it, and then it's like the game of telephone.
I agree.
And then the next thing you know, people are saying we shouldn't celebrate Columbus Day.
It's been huge this year.
It's ridiculous. You need to listen to this Neil deGrasse Tyson thing. He maintains, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I think is a genius, by the way.
Well, I mean,
That
I think it's proven.
Christopher Columbus coming to the New World is the single greatest achievement in human history. He thinks that single act had the greatest impact on the human beings as a species than ever before. You want to know why he says that?
I do.
Okay. During when humans were young and we were migrating from all human
Walking
beings
around.
started in Africa.
Right?
And they started walking. So what happened is after the Ice Age, the glaciers formed up and there was a land bridge, the Bering Strait, coming from Russia to Alaska. So
They did this.
from Asia, they came over and they started populating the North America and Central America and South America, right? So Ice Age ends, ice melts, land bridge gone,
Dead.
oceans come up. We have two deviated human
Septums.
species.
Like
right?
a septum. Deviated.
We have two branches of the human species. Still the same species, but separated completely.
Right. Septum.
Over time, they would have deviated into two complete different species, which happens all the time with animals.
Sure.
What happened was with Christopher, and yes, there were some Vikings that came to the New World first, but they didn't leave any sort of a impact, both genetically or in any sort of a way. They just kind of came and went, for the most part.
I've got a good story about a Viking.
Christopher Columbus was the first, and he was the first person to connect that continent landmass with this continent landmass, and introduced re-speciation of the two branches of the human species.
But I thought the whole story was that somebody else before him had done that.
You're talking about like Amerigo Vespucci or whatever his name is.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, other people had been here, but nobody had the effect that Christopher Columbus did at the time. He came here. He opened that route. He went back. He was a political advocate for that. He came back and forth. He did all kinds of things. I mean, it was a big deal.
I agree with you.
It began.
He also had a UFO sighting.
Can we get back to aliens?
Yeah, that's
Listen
what I
to the
wanted
Neil
to do.
deGrasse Tyson thing about Christopher Columbus, and if you're walking around spouting ignorant information about Christopher Columbus like Jerry is, inform yourself.
Well, I just said that because I don't think he actually saw a UFO.
Okay.
Well, no, I should say he probably did see a UFO, an unidentified flying object, but I don't think it was a spacecraft.
Okay, well, let's get back to what we're talking about.
So what blew me away is that this guy was the whole Christopher Columbus thing, but this guy was saying that so many other people had seen the exact same thing that he did prior to him seeing it. But once he saw it, that's when they said, oh, yeah, we've noticed those.
Yeah.
We've noticed those things offshore, and a lot of them have come from the East Coast. I believe he was on the West Coast at the time, though, when he
wasn't on the West Coast.
Yeah, he saw his. But on the East Coast, apparently a lot of these things were what they said was coming out of the ocean.
Right.
Which is incredible to me.
Right. So, I mean, that brings the next dimension to it. So, I believe this guy. I believe the story. I believe some of the things they say about the story. I believe now that the government admits that real, so that's happening. And to me, it doesn't seem like it can possibly be a human technology because it would have been exploited by now. So, where does that leave you?
Where do we go from here?
It leaves you with
Wonder.
Aliens.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like the most likely thing to me.
Something else.
However, I do, and I've always kind of felt this way, right? I feel like if there are aliens that have visited this planet or are visiting this planet actively, man, they're doing a damn good job of not letting people
know about it.
But the thing is, when you start really looking past like the double standard of people thinking it's ridiculous, because there's a lot of freaking Looney Tunes that believe in the UFO stuff. But when you start looking past that at some of the real like people and the real evidence and stuff like that, you're like, oh, maybe people do know this, and we're just the ones that are like thinking it's all.
Maybe we're ignorant to that knowledge, I guess.
But if we are, I mean, the vast majority of people are. I mean,
sure.
I think that's possible, but I mean,
it's beyond the scope of reality.
It's definitely a UFO. I mean, UFOs exist. I'm sold on UFOs.
Yeah.
Let's step it back. Do you believe there is extraterrestrial life?
So
in the galaxy. Let's start there.
So before I really listened to this podcast, I would have said no, I think.
Really?
To a point, I think I would have said no. Yeah, I really think I would have.
Why? Why would you say no?
Because I didn't take it. I didn't take any of the sightings as real. Like none of it's. I'm
not talking about on Earth. I'm talking in the galaxy.
I know.
Do you believe there's any extraterrestrial?
I know that. I didn't think of it in that context before. Right. I really never really thought of it in that context before, because any of the sightings on Earth I always thought of as somewhat fictional, somewhat like,
and certainly most are
like just grandiose stories of things people have seen.
Right.
But I hadn't heard somebody like this guy. I really didn't. And that's why I texted you as soon as I started listening.
Did they go in that depth on that couple from the 50s or 60s that had the abduction story?
No.
They were an interracial couple from the 50s. So they had nothing to gain from doing this. And they were both abducted and then separately experimented on and then returned. And it was quite extraordinary. They had basically the same stories of all the events, but told it multiple times over their entire lives separately and to, in all different contexts, and had nothing to gain from it. Lives were destroyed by it. That was an interesting case. It's one that's cited a lot. But anyway, I've always been of the feeling with almost 100% assurity in my mind that there's extraterrestrial life. I mean,
so now I would agree. I think there has to be.
I mean, the reality though is
I don't know how there couldn't be.
There is almost zero chance. Whatever the statistics or the chance are, that there's not that we're the only planet in the galaxy
that has any
sort of life is so beyond near zero that it's almost incalculably small. Right. So the universe is almost infinite.
Well, I think they've already proven that there's life on other planets.
I don't think they've ever proven that definitively.
They've proven that there's the building blocks of life.
But there's no doubt about that. Well, of course. I mean, there's only so many elements that make up our universe.
And they've found those.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the point is,
I don't know how to.
If the universe is so almost near infinite, right?
Yeah.
I don't think people necessarily can wrap their head around how big that is. So like if you look up,
I have a hard time doing that.
Trillions, I don't know, billions, whatever, billions, millions of stars that you can see, right? And billions more you can't, right?
Right.
Every one of them is a sun with planets around it.
Yes.
And that's only the small, what is that? 1/100th of 1% of a sliver that you can even see.
This is getting so...
It's so infinite. So
it's so immense.
A lot of physicists believe that the universe is so massive that we exist in every form possible. Like everything exists. Like every decision that you make branches off. Like if there's another part of this galaxy where there's two people named Jerry and Chris standing here doing this podcast, but they're both ducks. Like that exists.
Could it be that way?
If you're going by statistics, it's almost a certainty that there is that because it's so vastly infinite.
This blows my mind, dude. I can't handle this.
But my point is, if that's true and it's so big, right, and so vast, the chance that there's no other life in the universe is almost
none.
Zero. It's 0% chance. So there is. I'm going to say definitively there's got to be. And then on top of that, like we can see from this planet other planets that have habitable atmosphere that are in what's called the Goldilocks zone. So they're the right distance from a star.
Yep.
And they probably have water. So
but they found a planet that is exactly like Earth.
They found like 12 of them.
Yeah, but there's one in particular that they found that has everything Earth has, basically. I don't remember what they called it.
And what's crazy is that like they find these planets and they're like, oh, well, what would it take to go there? And they're like, 40 million light years, in a period of time that's impossible. And that's like in the 1/100th of 1% of the sliver of the universe we can even see.
So this is where it ties back to the ship that they found, is that they're saying if it's not bound by gravity in any sort of the word and is creating its own space, travel in a sense is unlimited for that ship.
Maybe, yeah.
No, that's what they said in the show. In that episode, they said I
don't know if I necessarily believe that, though.
But if it's in its own space, if it's creating its own space, which has nothing in that space besides the ship, it's like carving a blank spot. There's no resistance. There's no...
Maybe. I just have to... Like, what I don't understand is
how
the physics behind that. So,
yeah.
But I'm sure a physicist could tell whether or not that's plausible.
So,
but
if that is plausible, and how it ties back to the whole Bob Lazar thing is like the element in the thing that he was studying, he says he was studying, if that's a real thing, and we don't know how to recreate it at this point, but if that's a real thing and that's the propulsion that it uses, like it's infinite on what you could do.
Right. Well, I mean, another crazy thing you got to understand too is like, what is dark matter, right? But
we're bound by physical limitations because of gravity. So, like, you can only go so fast through our atmosphere because things are pulling back on you.
Right.
If you have none of that, nothing matters.
Right.
Because matter is, there's no resistance against it. Nothing's pulling against it. You can go as fast as you want, anywhere you want, anytime you want.
Well, and there's so much too, because like I said, like I was saying is, what is 70% of our universe is created of dark matter, and we don't even know what it is.
And we don't even know what it is. We can't study.
We can measure it.
We've measured it, but you can't really study it. We don't
even know what it is. Okay, so it's plausible that's like most of our universe, right? And on top of that, it's like the whole quantum thing. So there was a quantum scientist. This is a separate podcast, but like electrons, which are matter. I mean, they're parts of atoms, can spontaneously disappear and reappear.
Right.
They can teleport themselves through time and space in a fourth dimension.
Right.
And that's the building block of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's something crazy about quantum
mechanics
where just by observing something or measuring it, or even just the fact that you're observing it, changes the reality of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for us to sit here and say oh, that's not possible.
So
that's so arrogant to say oh, that's not possible. No, that's stupid. It's dumb. There's no such thing as aliens. Arrogant. That's a stupid thing to say, because there's almost 100% certainty that there is extraterrestrial life somewhere in this galaxy. The question is, are they coming here, and why?
And speaking of affecting things, so in that matter, we can't even. I just read a whole article about playing pool, hitting two balls against each other that hit each other. They can't figure out. There is no calculation to figure out once it hits one pool ball and directs off to hit another, and then that ball ricochets, hits another, and they can't figure out any of those calculations because it gets so immense.
Right.
Once they all start ricocheting off each other.
There's billions of possibles.
Right.
Realities.
And they're saying the possibility of all of these things being affected by each other, it could honestly be affected. It is affected by how close you stand to the table to the ball that is being hit will affect where it goes.
Yeah. Everything will.
Isn't that crazy to you? Yeah. When you if a guy was standing next to the pocket that you wanted to hit a ball to, but it hit 4 different balls before that, could affect if it goes in that pocket or not.
Right.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It's hard to quantify that.
I think it all comes down to, so
if we can't figure out where pool balls are going to go on a table because we're standing in certain locations, how are we going to figure out who's where and how they're getting there?
Listen, we're apes.
Yeah.
We're monkeys, man.
Right.
We're just sacks of meat that 100 years ago we're domesticating animals to do work.
Right.
And
we're so infantile in our existence.
Look where we've come in the last 100 years.
In
our
eyes,
to the 10,000 years before that.
But in our eyes, we've in the last few generations, we've come leaps and bounds, or a couple centuries.
Well, we really have. The totality of human achievement technologically has happened in the last 50 years of 150,000 years of existence.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, absolutely. It is.
But still, to think we have even one semblance of an idea. I think that there's this problem that people have, that human beings have. And I don't know if this is off topic. I think we've been kind of on and off. is like we all think that we're
the center of our
smarter
universe.
that we are, smarter than we are.
Yeah.
The center of our universe.
Yeah.
And you know, there's like a psychological word for that. I don't remember what it's called. It's not confirmation bias.
I think it's Debito.
No, but it's a real thing that people think that they're average. Like they think that they're above average. Everybody, every single person thinks they're like smarter than average. They think they're better than average. And they're
Really?
not. Like nobody is. Like
I think I'm a very average person.
most people think they're smarter than the average person. And most people are not.
No, I guess I would agree with that. I do feel like that at some point in the day.
I mean, isn't that weird? Because you're sitting there thinking right now, as well as everybody listening to this,
Right.
most people probably do think they're smarter than the average person. I'm definitely smarter than the average person. But it's weird that most other people would think that because they're definitely not as smart as me. Every single person listening to this podcast right now is thinking that. You're thinking that right now.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You know, it's a weird thing.
Because you don't want to feel lesser than.
It's not even that. It's you can't help it.
Yeah. I would agree.
Because I don't know why. I mean, I'm sure there's a rare, you know, that's what I believe real intelligence is like being smart enough to know what you don't know, right? Being smart enough to know how dumb you are.
Right.
And not necessarily dumb in the sense of like.
It's more of a perception. It's like a perception of what you are in the now, I guess you'd say. Like you have to understand everything around you at all times, which we cannot do.
Right. But I mean, my point to bring that up is just like, you know, how many people will sit there and say like, well, there's no such thing as aliens. Like, do you know anything about it? Like, do you know the probability that there's not extraterrestrial life in this universe is near zero?
Right.
Do you know that?
Even Neil deGrasse Tyson, like we think of him as a genius. Does he know? No, he doesn't know. Nobody really knows.
He's got a lot better idea than most
Of
people.
course, he has a lot better idea.
And there's
But we
other
don't-
people that got better ideas than him, you know.
We don't actually know. And
We don't know because we're dumb apes. But if you look at probability,
sacks of meat, as
if you
say.
look at math,
Yeah.
we know. I mean, there's probably math. That's one thing that, you know, we don't even know that, but we know enough to know what we don't know, hopefully. So that's why I'm just saying, like, I believe that. Now, that doesn't change the fact that the main question is, if there is extraterrestrial life is irrelevant to the conversation. Because the conversation is, there is extraterrestrial life. How advanced are they? Do they have the capability to come here? And why would they come here? Or would they even want to come here?
What's the purpose?
Or what's the purpose? Or why would they want to come here and hide it? So that's a whole separate issue. Because that is one that you can really speculate and be like, if you can sit here and say, okay, there's a 100% chance there's extraterrestrial life.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean there's a 100% chance that they'd come to here.
Sure.
Maybe
it has
they
to be
can't.
somewhere close.
Why do
right?
we even have to assume that they can make it across a galaxy that is so infinite, mind you, that every one of those pool shots that you're talking about, the billions and trillions and quadrillions of possible paths, all of those things, all of those options are happening simultaneously in different parts of the universe.
Right.
Because it's so infinite.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. If any of you have any like objective perception of this, I want to hear it. If any of you are on the same page as us,
Do you have proof?
like what I just want to hear.
Seen a UFO?
Yeah, I want to hear your
you ever
perspective
seen a
on
UFO?
this. I don't think so. No.
There's certainly been many times that in my life that like I've thought like that's weird. That could be a UFO. But then I just would always make the assumption that it's like
See, I've always been blind to it. I think
I would just always make the assumption of like, oh, it must be something that I just don't know. Like it must be some weird kind of plane or
I've thought that. Like I've thought like that'd be cool if that was a UFO, but it's clearly a plane.
How many UFO sightings have happened since the invention of consumer drones?
Oh, I'm sure it's skyrocketed.
I'm
Sure, it's skyrocketed. When planes, there is a graph that shows, like, the skyrocketing of UFO sightings since airplanes have been invented. And it's like clear to see.
Yeah.
People are saying these things because there's more things in the air. And I
There's
understand
a lot of
that.
stuff in the air, yeah.
But I don't know. I personally haven't seen anything that I would say I thought was a UFO. No.
No, I don't think I have either. I've just seen things that I've thought like, that's weird. I wonder what that is.
Yeah.
I would just never make
I've
the
thought that
assumption
too,
that
I
it's a
guess.
UFO.
Yeah. No,
But
I definitely did not.
I've seen things that I thought looked so strange that it could be a UFO, but I just always made the assumption that it was just something that I wasn't aware
You're not aware of. You're
Right.
just, it's unexplainable to you.
Right.
But it's explainable to somebody else. Somebody else could explain it
if
to you.
You believe in aliens. I
think I do.
Extraterrestrials outside in the universe somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there is, there's no saying that it's not just like bacteria or it's like because there's a big jump from
I don't
like
think this whole like Tic Tac UFO sighting is bacteria.
no, obviously not. But putting that aside, like there's nothing saying that like, oh yeah, I believe in extraterrestrial life. I mean, there's like 100% chance of that. So we just don't know what form that is taken because there's a big leap from like there's somewhere with like some fish-like creature on it.
Yeah.
To there's another place with like a type of advanced extraterrestrial that can circumnavigate the universe and show up here in weird that's a big leap, you know what I mean? And who's to say that like any extraterrestrial life would look anything like what we're even familiar with?
Yeah.
Like we're carbon-based life forms, right?
Atoms.
There could be extraterrestrial life somewhere that is like gaseous. It's like a gas
hydrogen based.
Or it's like electrical based. I mean, we don't even know.
Like the silence in the library from Doctor Who.
Yeah. We certainly have ideas of what's possible based on physics. I mean, we have a kind of an idea because that's like the only thing that we have ever found that like actually follows like a pretty rule that works is physics, which is all kind of fucked up now with quantum physics.
Yeah, but again, all of these things follow rules, and what's to say they have any? Like, what's to say anybody has rules?
Are we so stupidly ignorant?
Yes.
That we can't even see past that. Like, we think that like the world follows a certain set of mathematical or physical rules, right?
Yeah.
Like the law of thermodynamics.
Okay.
Like it's roundly accepted as like there's no way to cheat that in our universe. It's part of reality, right? But maybe we're just so stupid.
Right.
Like we're only existing in 3 dimensions. Do you understand like this one thing that always blows my mind. All right. Like we have no understanding of the concept of time. Like it doesn't even exist.
It doesn't exist anywhere besides what we've
whole
created.
Thing, like we live in this like linear timeline that does not even exist in the real world. It only exists because it's our brains having to make sense somehow of existence. So we have only this limited capability of seeing time going from point A, beginning, to point B to the end, and this is where you're at in that line. But that's nothing. That doesn't even exist. Like it's a non-linear space-time. I mean, it's all relative. It's multidimensional.
Everything's relative and dimensional. Yeah,
and like that's why I always think, and this always brought me comfort. I've had, if you have people in your life that die, or if you had friends that die, and you're like, oh man, they're dead. Like that's over. It's in the past. They're gone. Like I'm moving forward now. They're gone. Right. I can't ever see them again. If you really sit down and think about it, like if you understand the physics of it, you're like, not really, because there's like no linear time doesn't even exist. So like there is no beginning and there is no end.
Right.
Like
it is.
It's like a swirling existence. That's just the only way that we can perceive it.
This is wild. I can't physically perceive any of this. Like even the conversation makes me like I can't grasp it. I can't grasp that.
Yeah.
Like being just being always. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of if you and I are talking to each other.
Well, think of it this way. If time...
Or if I was like, quote unquote, dead. Are we?
Yes, we are. We are dead right now and just being born and alive right now because time isn't linear.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's all things at one time. Like, that's not the way it works.
Right.
That's not the way it works in the physical universe. That's what's interesting about quantum mechanics, because electrons have found a way to spontaneously move about that dimension, essentially, that we don't even have access to contemplate barely. Yet.
We'll get there. At some point, I think we will. Don't you?
No, I don't.
You don't think we'll ever get there as a species?
No. I don't think our species... I mean, look at... We're on a rocket ship towards AI, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear. I mean, we're bound by a lot of physical limitations, human beings.
Right.
I think
it's all because of gravity. If we're talking about flight or anything,
we're talking about a lot of limitations. So we're talking about entropy. We're talking about gravity. We're talking about
on our body. It's because of gravity.
But it's also because
to move anywhere.
Yeah. Well, theoretically, yes, but we're also talking about entropy. I mean, we have lifespans,
Right.
That's about to end, in the next 50 years. That'll be over.
Yeah.
They'll be able to cure aging. They'll be able to cure every disease, basically. We'll be able to figure that out.
You're saying within 50 years?
Within 50 years, yeah. Within our lifespan. We might not be able to...
Get
it, but our kids will.
You think so?
Yeah. But before that even happens, we'll be genetically engineering children to begin with. I mean, that's already happening in China.
Yeah.
It's frowned upon now, but
right.
It will happen. It will happen eventually. So there's that limitation, but like AI doesn't have any of those limitations that we have.
No.
And there's no conceivable reason why down the road, even 50, maybe 100 years, we won't just be able to meld our consciousness themselves, meld that all together with the AI. It's already happening. Cell phones are already an extension of you as a person.
Right. It is.
And that's just a beginnings of the melding of human beings with AI. And that's what's going to allow us. And if there's a species or an alien race that came here, that's probably what they've already done.
But the question is if there's a consciousness to that. So
that's a very, 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 you want to talk about a mind fuck, we can talk about consciousness, but if there is, let's just argue in fact that we can get to a point where artificial intelligence can achieve consciousness, right?
Yeah.
So there's no reason why at that point we can't transfer our consciousness.
Oh, absolutely.
Or meld our consciousness with that.
At that point, you should be able to.
Okay, so if it's essentially digital or it's light, why can't you beam your consciousness?
Maybe they can.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it follows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing that prevents any of that we know of.
Right.
Now, there's a religious argument, I suppose. There's not a religious argument. I'll take that back. I'll walk that back. We don't know what consciousness is.
Exactly. So that's the point. Is like we don't know what it is.
I think
you don't know where it comes from.
Yeah, and there's been religions built around trying to say, "Hey, we understand what this is," and there's been science built around trying to say, "Hey, we understand what this is." But the reality was none of those organizations or people or anybody knows anything about that. There is a lot of really good philosophers that'll talk about consciousness. There was another one, a guy that talked on Joe Rogan about consciousness. And, he was making a lot of interesting arguments. But
yeah,
in the end, nobody knows.
No. I think we've reached our time.
And that's all, Jerry, if we're not already in a simulation.
Right, and we could be. Like, what we're recording right now is a simulation of what we are, right?
if you believe that there's a potential future anywhere on the horizon, anywhere, a billion years from now, right, where the human race, AI, technology could get to a point where we could run AI simulations. So let's say we had to make a decision about the path going forward for the human race. And we could say, hey, we got such powerful computing powers. We can run an artificially intelligent simulation that'll run through a billion years of human history from here to here. And that's going to tell us, we're going to run a billion of those simulations. And it's going to show us what the best path was of all those simulations. And we're going to make that decision, right? That's the idea behind what. That's why you would simulate something to begin with. So if you can believe that there's a potential future, even a billion years down the road, that we could ever get to a point as a species where that could happen.
Yes.
Then there's a near 100% chance that we're in that simulation already.
Okay.
Well, really? Think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it. What are the odds if you live in a universe where the idea that a simulation is possible? If you'll accept that
the fact that
that's a possibility, well then
you're in the simulation.
Well, there's only two possible things, right?
Yeah.
And that's that you're part of the one original
right
that got to the point where they could create the technology to run simulations, or you're one of the billions of simulations. So the chance that you're the first is 1 in a billion. You know what I mean? Or trillion.
Yeah, no, I get
or
it.
Or quadrillion, or however many simulations are possible.
Whatever the simulations are possible, you're one of them.
I mean,
from 1 to a trillion, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, for the chance that you're somehow magically part of their one reality that we're chugging towards that potential future. Because you understand, in all those simulations, they're going to simulate all of history from the Big Bang or from whatever point you wanted to simulate, whatever thing you're simulating for. And you're simulating every aspect of reality. So, like I said, if you believe that that's a world where there's even a possibility that simulations could occur, then most likely we're in one.
That's wild. I can't handle this stuff. I can't even think about it. I can think about it, but I don't even know how to speak on it.
Think about the glitches in life, like ghosts or UFOs,
whatever,
or aliens, or weird things that happen,
like
or deja vu. Think about that. That could all just be part of a mishap, a misfire in a computer code in a simulation.
But even if you think about like something smaller, like something so much simpler, like ants, there could be an ant that never leaves the colony, right? Like in our life or in their life. Could be an ant that never leaves their colony, knows nothing other than their colony, never goes up to the surface. Like, is that the same thing we're in? You know what I mean? Like, where you're just stuck inside of this colony and you know it to be your life and nothing other than that. And then they think like, wow, these guys go up a tunnel. I wonder where they go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds ridiculous when you talk about ants and it's weird, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like, they don't know any different than what they're doing at the moment, and they have a job to do, and that's what they do. Like, we're living our life, and this is what our life is, and this is what we do. We know nothing other than that.
Yeah, just complete ignorance.
It's complete ignorance of everything around you, and it's only because we don't have the capability to know any better. We don't.
Right. Well, I mean,
we can try. You can,
and we are trying. Yeah,
and we have people that are much more intelligent than I.
And we
have been
ourselves
places
are
that
trying.
I don't.
I mean, think about what the average person knew.
Just us,
200 years ago.
Just us speaking of it is trying to understand better than where we're at.
Right.
But we don't have the capability between you and I right now to figure that out. Like we won't ever. You and I will never have that capability to know if 100 trillion light years away, there's another Chris and Jerry having a podcast that are ducks.
I mean, I don't know if I can agree that there's no way we can know that because
you and I right now. I mean, 30, like even in 30 years or 40 years.
That's statistics. So you take such a vast.
But in 30 or 40 years, that means nothing in the scheme of infinity.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
We won't.
So all you
the
have
probability is that we will not find that out.
No, we won't. Yeah. I mean, that's
what I'm saying.
But the probability is such that we can already assume it to be true.
Right. But I want to know the other Chris and Jerry that are having a podcast that are ducks.
That's never going to, you're never going to know that.
I know. And that's wild. Like, we will never know it.
Yeah. But we're connected to
We can assume it's true, but you'll never know it.
All that, the duck, Chris and Jerry, and us.
Yeah.
We all are made of the same matter, formed from the same star.
Yeah, we're all quackers. You know?
No, we were all formed from the initial matter from the Big Bang.
Not necessarily, because there's different galaxies.
But I'm
like
not,
all of those were created from something else, right?
No.
So the one single Big Bang
it.
created all of the universe.
Everything, as far as we know. The only theory.
I mean, we have they've mapped out as far as we know, right now. Like that is what we consider infinite, but they know what's beyond, or they know there's something beyond that.
Well, no, they don't know that there's anything beyond that.
No, they know that there's something beyond that. We just haven't mapped it.
Well, oh, you mean like what's observable?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we can only see like a 100th of 1% of 1%.
Right.
Yeah. No. But we know how big it is. I mean,
no, we don't know how big it is.
We don't know how big it is because I think it's near infinite, but we know at the rate at which is expanding. Like that is a mathematical equation that we do know.
The rate that it's expanding.
Yeah, the universe is expanding still from the initial Big Bang. Like it's still
growing, yeah.
Growing. And it's already near infinite.
What's on the outside of where it's growing?
I mean,
nothing.
The idea, I mean, there are other theories, right? That there are several of the same universes that are like bubbles off each other. So there's like bubble universes, and there's theories about black holes and things like that. So there's other theories that there's infinite universes. So our universe is infinite, but there's infinite universes.
I can't handle this. I don't even know. It's like taking a black sheet of paper and just putting specks on it and saying all of those are universes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Except just color the entire paper white and say every white speck is another universe.
That's insane.
And then throw that in a gallon of milk. And then throw that.
Why does it have to be white?
5-gallon bucket of white paint.
Typical whitewashing, Chris. Unbelievable.
I'm gonna save a zinger to blow your mind for the next show, but there's another really heady thing that I heard on a podcast that is pretty mind.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about it next time, because
maybe we'll make a new segment.
This has been a very long episode of Snarf Talk.
What is it?
2 hours and 23 minutes at the moment.
We didn't even get to what we're watching.
We didn't. No.
I didn't get to talk about my new favorite fall TV show.
You told me you didn't think we'd have enough content for 2 hours.
Aliens.
It's you can talk about it forever.
Yeah, I know. All right, guys, though. Check us out at patreon.com/snarfcomics. Go on there. Subscribe. Get extra content, extra podcast material.
Yes. You can also get our podcast on snarfcomics.com.
You can subscribe for as little as $1.
$1.
But yeah, check us out at snarfcomics.com. All our podcasts are there. We also are on YouTube, youtube.com/snarfcomics.
Yeah, check out our YouTube, guys, because you can see every YouTube, or you can see every video, every podcast that we have in video.
In color, too.
So everything we're talking about, whatever I'm doing, if it sounds funny, you can watch it on YouTube and see me or Chris act a fool.
Active fool. Head on over to the Apple Podcast app and leave a 5-star review. Send us that review
5
to info@snarfcomics.com with your address. We will send you a sticker and we will read your comment live on the podcast. I guess it's not live, but we'll read
live
it
on the pre-recorded episode of Snarf
You
Talk.
too can be just like Jerry O'Connell,
You could be like Jerry O'Connell,
who
and
is
you
a
could
huge
be,
fan of the podcast.
You could be hungry like a wolf.
Left us a review. That could be you. Also, follow us at Snarf Comics on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter if you would like to be a part of the Snarf Talk community
World.
and contribute to our social media or to our blog on snarfcomics.com.
We have one.
We would love to have you. If you are in the mood to write something, a review of your favorite movie perhaps, or maybe a retrospective on the state of euphoria in possum brains when they eat wild berries.
Shrooms.
Yeah, we'll take that.
We would. If you want to write something,
If you want to write something,
publish it.
yeah,
We'll put it
right
out
up
for
on our
you.
blog. We might even give you a few bucks if it's good.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
if you want to contribute, you can gladly help us out with our social media or our blog or anything like that. So
Yeah, hit us up. That would be really great.
we're trying to get this blog thing to take off. We need more content writers. So like, for example, one of our listeners and a good friend of ours, Ian Hicks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Loves Svengoolie.
He does. Write something about Sven
If you
Gulli,
wrote
Ian.
a blog article about Svengoolie, we'll
know
put
how
it
many-
on the blog. It would be awesome, man.
You know how many people would read that?
We share it across social media. We advertise it. I mean, it's cool.
It's a good idea.
It is a good idea, and I would love if you did that,
Yeah. Ian, do that. Write a
Mr. Ian.
Yeah. Write something about Sven Gulli because I want to know more about him too. I haven't really watched him that much.
Berwyn.
But, see, I don't even get that reference.
You don't get the reference? He's
Don't.
always making fun of Berwyn. The town, Berwyn.
Oh,
He's
okay.
from Chicago, man.
No, I know that.
He's making fun of Berwyn.
I get it.
They throw rubber chickens.
I know they throw rubber chickens. I knew that.
Berwyn.
I knew he had a goofy mustache.
All right, guys. We've come to the end of our time for Snarf Talk this week. I've been Chris.
I'm Jerry.
See ya.
Bye.